Man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
Hello,
your day.
how are you doing? It's Friday, the 13th of November, 2020. Good morning and welcome to the Situation Room. It doesn't matter what kind of date it is, but it's a lovely day. We are happy to be here. Nduoko, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Are you happy to be here
I am.
on this 13th Friday, 13th day?
Okay.
Okay, Eric, start again. Start again, please.
We'll allow
13th Friday since the first Friday we started counting.
Yes.
It's not the 13th
That's the only
Friday,
answer I can
Eric.
give you.
It is the 13th Friday. Do you know what my first Friday was?
Nope.
It's 13 Fridays ago.
You see, the thing is, because I don't know, I can actually just disagree with you because I don't know. And if you want me to believe you, give me evidence.
All right. Today is the 13th Friday. So count backwards.
That is evidence.
That is evidence
Yes,
enough.
and if I don't believe you, tough.
Shauri yako. How are you doing? Shiti?
I am actually very good, and I'm delighted that you've introduced very early in the morning the interesting topic of evidence producing, evidence production. And I like the way you produce the evidence. 13th Friday. Okay? Evidence, it is Friday.
Count backwards.
Yes, no, it's Friday the 13th. That one is given, then count backwards. Irrefutable evidence. Thank you, Eric.
Yes. Welcome to the show. It's another cold day in Nairobi. Cold morning in Nairobi. You had said it was going to rain yesterday during the day, did you?
That was the day
It depends
before.
on where you, it depends on where you are.
It was the day before yesterday.
But this rain in Nairobi, don't assume that if it's raining on Mombasa Road, it's raining.
It's raining in Nairobi.
No, it's raining on Mombasa Road. It might not even be raining in South B or C. Or you go to the Madaraka area, you find the sun is shining brightly and you're actually shocked. So,
And yet it was raining on Mombasa Road.
and then then you'll be told it was raining in Nairobi.
Say where? Be specific.
Yes, say it is raining. This spot, Nairobi.
Yep.
There was a splash of rain at about 2 in the morning. It seems to be the case now. Over the last few days, 2 in the morning is when it starts raining. And it continues for a bit.
Is
and
that
then
what qualifies as morning showers?
it would be. Yes.
That's it, huh?
Because it wasn't a deluge. It wasn't.
The onomatopoeia is fantastic this morning, CT. In good stead.
You do know that human beings can actually communicate by simply grunting and making sounds.
Yeah, my son is in this stage now where he's into like beatboxing and stuff, and then he can make it's amazing. I feel like recording it and sending it like to the Guinness Book of World Records. But he can do these fantastic sounds, like birds, animals. He's 7 years old, but he's really quiet. But it seems like after some time he's gotten this thing, and then he realized that he can make the sounds with his mouth. And so every now and then you hear sounds, and you think, okay, there's a bird in the house. And then you find it's the boy in the chair
And
making these
why have you not recorded him?
I don't know. I think I need to now. Yeah, it's really cool.
No, it's not just absolutely cool. It is something that you will cherish in the years to come.
Yeah, and he's really interested in it. He wants
don't
to.
miss the moment because he'll grow out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Then he'll realize that
And you will never remember it.
yes,
Yeah.
you won't, because you'll be busy wondering how on earth he acquired the girlfriend he has.
So when he started making those sounds, I just remembered I have a beatbox machine in my house.
Okay. So welcome to today's show. It's a lovely Friday. We're going to have a couple of discussions. What's happening in Ethiopia? So the onslaught by the government on another regional government is still ongoing. We need to understand what that is all about. So we'll have that conversation. We'll also be having a conversation about what's happening at the Law Society of Kenya. The onslaught on the from the council or with the council or against the president or from the president or to the CEO or against something that's happening at the Law Society. So we'll basically just seek to find out at some point as well. And also we will be asking ourselves what's happening in the country. The president delivered his State of the Nation address yesterday. We have that conversation to look at and review the things that he said, the things that he was expected to say, whether he He basically addressed the challenges that are facing the country, and whether he provided a solution to them. He actually did a Moses moment. He was telling us that we are going to cross over Canaan into Canaan without him.
He's jumped on that Canaan bandwagon. All right.
Spending time with his brother has really transformed him. He's basically saying, I have seen Canaan.
So are you saying that with his address and State of the Nation address, we were then witnessing a Damascus moment? Sorry, a road to Damascus moment.
Well, the scales fell off somebody's eyes, that's for sure.
I don't know. Could also be another thing that God has told him, you're not crossing. Because you
It
failed
won't
me.
be the first time God has spoken to this particular gentleman.
Told him, you have failed me. I will not let you cross over into Canaan.
Do you remember when certain forces of darkness were expelled by the light at a certain point in time when we were trying to figure out who might be our next president? This same gentleman was involved in that particular drama.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think his experience and interaction with the spiritual is not to be underrated.
Kabisa? Yeah. So, welcome to the show. But then, there's COVID-19 and what is happening around the country. So, what are the latest numbers that we have in Kenya and in the world?
So there always seems to be a big number that we are looking at, right? And so the big description yesterday was that the highest number of cases in Nairobi ever recorded in the country. Let's look at the total number of cases first, and we're at 66,723 now totally. COVID-19 cases spiked yesterday. 919 more people were confirmed to have the virus. The new numbers were from 6,135 people who presented themselves for a COVID-19 test. Nairobi County recorded the highest number of positive cases, and that was at 345, and had almost 4 times that of Mombasa, and that was the second highest with 98. 7 other counties had above 20 confirmed positive cases, while the remaining 25 counties that recorded new numbers had fewer cases. Also, Kenya reported the occurrence of 23 deaths yesterday. When those happened, again, we are not quite sure, but the report came through yesterday as 23. All right. There are 23,000 plus active cases of COVID in the country at the moment. And looking at Kenya overall in the continent of Africa, Kenya now ranks 7th. After South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Ethiopia, Tunisia, and Libya. If we're looking at Morocco, Morocco used to be, down there on the totem pole, but has now overtaken Egypt and is just second to South Africa. And Kenya falls 7th after Libya. If we're looking at the other countries of the world, we are looking now at 53,085,762 cases, with now 1.3 million deaths. And again, still, the United States, probably by the end of today, would have reached 11 million cases, with India hot on the heels with almost 9 million cases, and the cases continue to rise. The issues of vaccines are still being discussed, and we see that other companies, apart from the Pfizer-BioNTech partnership, there are other companies now who are talking about their availability also to be able to help to produce the vaccines. We have the United States already looking for 300 million doses of the vaccine by the time January 2021 rolls around. The UK in hot pursuit also. So many countries are scrambling for doses already. And so more companies are now throwing their hat into the ring, saying that we want to be able to help to produce.
In fact, what they're actually doing, even more interestingly, is that countries are actually setting up strategic bodies that are going to determine and work out how best the available vaccines will be utilized, looking at vulnerable groups, looking at people who, frontline workers, who need it more than perhaps anybody else. And then Russia has also jumped right in, and they have their own vaccine that they're calling Sputnik 5. Okay? And they say it has 92% efficacy. So I think we will expect, because other countries were involved in the effort and this fight and this race to produce a vaccine. So we will find that other countries are probably also going to be giving us this sort of information. But of interest, the speed with which it has
Within a year.
We will.
Yeah, within a year.
Unprecedented.
But let's not forget that the Chinese have actually been giving the vaccine to their population for, is it 2 months now? Just simply because an American company has made this announcement, then becomes
That's why it
global
has gripped
news.
the world by storm.
It
right?
doesn't mean that they were the first, actually. The Chinese have already been doing that, not just announcing. But people have been queuing in health facilities in China to get the jab. Maybe what you can talk about is the efficacy, maybe the efficacy of the Chinese one, because the evidence said it's at 95%. Could be the difference. Lakini.
You know this debate really sometimes is a debate about reporting.
Yeah.
Because what you read about is people asking this question, okay, were phase 3 and 4 trials performed? Meaning, did you adhere to the rigorous protocols that such processes require? And did you ensure that safety measures that are required in such trials are also adhered to? Now, that debate can go on forever. But what defeats the debate, what in the end wins, is when you see the results of what it is, then everything else that you want to talk about and debate about is laid to rest. But again, if the reporting is from the West, I hardly think they are going to praise anything that comes from China or Russia.
Of course.
I hardly think. I hardly think.
They'll prime it like this is the first time we have a big breakthrough in the world. But it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not. So, and then what's happening in the African countries?
Okay,
in
so
terms of like the West African countries, you were talking about a rise in infections the other day, like in Ghana, for instance.
yeah, so I mean, a rise. I know we're talking about a rise whereby testing had continued, however, but not huge in terms of numbers. Now, when we look at Ghana, for example, and what they've been able to get in the last couple of days, Ghana with 49,957 cases, 320 deaths. And if you look at the last 24 hours, for example, Ghana had 385 new cases and 0 deaths. You see slight increases like this. Nigeria had 300 new cases the day before, 266 yesterday. And so the numbers are rising, but we also find that the numbers are rising in pockets. Of course, it comes out that testing is not as rigorous as you would like it to be. But people have moved on with their lives and are saying, you know what, Corona will not slow us down because there's life to be lived. That's one thing that's definitely the case. Morocco is one to watch, however, because they kind of stayed out in the shadows for some time, but now are right behind South Africa in terms of infections. It was not expected, some would say, but that's what we are seeing. South Africa still with the highest numbers, recording about an average of 1,000 cases a day. Not as high as it previously was, but still quite some infections happening here.
Okay.
Still just under 1% of the total global infections on the continent.
Something, though, that must be mentioned here about the vaccine and which is already being considered as a problem is the temperatures at which it must be stored. Minus 70.
Whoa.
Now, Kenya, just our CS for Health has already mentioned that we have begun preparations of determining how best we are going to store this. Yes.
Minus 70.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, let's take a break now. Take a look at what's happening in terms of the rain and the clouds and the rests in Nairobi, major cities around the world. It's the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, 6:15. Our live stream is up, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Say hello to us and we say hello back at you. And then we will continue looking at the headlines shortly.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to
All right, light rain
Spice
in some parts of
FM.
Nairobi this morning at 17, highs of 23 today and lows of 16. It's mostly clear in Nakuru at 15, highs of 24. And in Nyeri today, mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 23. Clear conditions in Eldoret at 13 degrees, going to highs of 22 and lows of 13. Light rain in Kisumu at the moment, likely to go well into the weekend, highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's clear at 15 in Kakamega with highs of 26 today. And it's raining in Mombasa at 26. We'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 25. Malindi, clear skies at 17, going into some warm conditions with highs of 25 and lows of 17. Rain showers being experienced in Kampala at the moment. We'll go to highs of 25 today and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam, rain showers as well at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25 today. Partly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg at 14. The high will be 24 and expected rain later. Clear skies in Lagos. We'll see a high of 31 today and lows of 25. Kinshasa is raining still this morning. Highs of 31 through today and then lows of 24. Looking into Beijing, sunny conditions at 13. The high will be 16 and lows of 3. Cloudy conditions in Paris at 10, highs of 14. And in London, 11 degrees, mostly clear conditions at the moment. 13 will be the high and then lows of 11. And finally, for now, Thursday night in New York is mostly cloudy. It'll wake up to a slightly warm Friday morning. Highs of 18 and lows of 9.
Spice FM, Malindi. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Minutes of 10
Mornings.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. If it's Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or anywhere else in the world, especially on our social media handles where we are live streaming the show this morning. Who's online?
Well, Adam Zakaria is watching live from Kumasi in Ghana this morning. Bernard Masika following from Nandi. Solo Ware says, I can see you. We can see you too. Have an awesome day, good people. Charity Minor tuned in from Nakuru, and Lawrence, very good morning. Tuned in from a rainy Meru today, as we mourn the passing of a great African statesman, Jerry Rawlings. Bade Astley tuned in from Machakos. A wonderful day indeed from Patrick Banlutek Loturi, who is listening and watching all the way from Utah.
Okay. So it's everywhere in the world.
It is.
From West Africa to the United States to within the country to West Kenya to west of Nairobi.
Wow.
All of you, karibuni to the show and thank you very much for joining us. CT Muga, today's proverb.
Indeed. You know, it being a Friday, I was hard-pressed to determine which particular proverb would be suitable for not just for the day, but for this delightful occasion. All right. I thought I would make it simple, Friday being a busy day with all manner of things happening. If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents.
Okay. If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents.
Yes. Close relative of the climbing the tree and going over the top.
And finding the ground.
And then having a floating sensation, which is almost immediately accompanied by a thud.
Sound like a preacher's this week, City. I mean, you've been on a series.
It's
So what is
important.
this series called?
Series is surely the lessons we need to learn from life don't need to be complicated. They're really simple and fairly straightforward. What is not serious and complicated, or what is not serious and also not complicated, but we make it complicated, is our willingness to simply see the simple truth.
Okay. Simplicity.
Yes, beginning with yourself, as you like to say, Eric, yourself, and then proceeding on to others.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's look at the headlines this morning. Where do we want to start? Africa's most unlikely Democrat is dead.
Jerry Rawlings, Ghana's unlikely Democrat, dies. He seized power twice in military coups, but is not credited as the driving force behind Ghana's emergence as a stable democracy. He died yesterday at the age of 73, a source according to the presidency. His takeovers in 1979 and 1981 were marked by authoritarian rule and the executions of senior military officers, including General Frederick Akufo, whom he overthrew in the first coup. Also, reports coming from the presidency is that he died from complications of COVID-19. So he's a former Air Force flight lieutenant. He twice overthrew governments through coups and stamped his authority on the nation of 30 million with an uncompromising reputation. We'll discuss him a little bit more in the show, but that was one of the things that can be remembered till today. Uncompromising reputation in terms of what he was seeking or looking for the country. The son of a Scottish father and Ghanaian mother, he became a national icon as he headed Ghana for 20 years until 2001, being voted in as president in 1992 and then ushering in democracy. His story is very long in terms of what he was able to do. There's a lot that is given to him in terms of credit for the democracy that Ghana is currently enjoying. He was widely reported to have been frustrated by the leadership of Mills, who died in 2012, in part because of the top brass of the NDC, which is one of the major ruling parties in Ghana, and they were not always willing to go along with his plans. So you find that he did not ask to be given leadership. He basically took it and decided to do certain things in the country, which again, many will argue, is the result of the democracy that Ghana enjoys
and
today.
stayed for so long in power. I mean, if we talk about Moi being in power for 24 years, and that was very long, this man from 81 to 2000.
He was in power for 20 years.
You know, what really is the benchmark? How long should someone stay in power?
I don't think there's a written code.
Okay, let me ask you differently.
Apart from maybe
At
the constitutions
what point
of nations.
does it become counterproductive when someone is already in power?
Yep, that's the question.
Yes.
So at what point do you now outlive your usefulness in that
Yes.
position, right? When you run short of ideas and all, who determines that anyway? So maybe you're still, serving your people and you're still doing what your people would like to see done. At what point then does it become? I think if you just go by how people are writing their constitutions and saying, you stay in power, you do 2 terms, people elect you the first time, then there's a referendum on your leadership in the middle, and then they give you a second term, and then you finish. And that's it. Is that enough?
I think it's adequate if you look at it from the point of view that you are not going to be the one person who's going to solve all the problems that this nation has, but that you are going to start the nation on a path that people who come after you will be able to continue along that path and get the nation to where it is, if you look at it from that point of view. But I think that isn't the view that is held by many who pursue that job. They think it's a permanent job till death do you and it part.
That's the
So
problem.
now, because human beings have been seen to have that tendency, you then have laws that limit your ability to stay there. So it also forces you to think of what you can do in this space of time that you have to achieve the things you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
It also introduces the element of competition, which
Yes.
then raises the bar in terms of performance.
Yes.
And performance judgment, right?
Yes.
So if you look at the former leader and what he had done, so as a military leader, and then at some point he decided, all right, so this is now going to be a civilian leadership. Let's go into an election. He's elected, he's re-elected, and then he hands over power to an opposition candidate, basically, because the candidate who won and who he handed over power to was from the opposition.
When you consider that this was a subject of debate, it actually gets to the heart of the matter that I was trying to bring up. That is, people didn't expect him to leave. One, people didn't expect him to hand over to somebody who was in the opposition.
Yep.
So the norm was you stay there until
For as
you
long
die.
as you can.
Okay? Or you're deposed and you run away and whatever else.
Yeah.
So that was the uniqueness of it. And when you look at the trend of countries where people have handed over leadership while they're still alive, you do find that there is a lot of stability in many of those countries. It's because people intrinsically understand it doesn't matter. They will leave. And the knowledge that someone may not leave, that now is what causes the mayhem.
So
that
it
we keep
brings in
seeing.
the issues.
Yes.
So, but on the other hand, when someone has left office, but they still have this background political play that they have, is that still them being active in politics? So, for instance, Jerry Rawlings has been, there are those who would argue that, yes, he left office, he handed over power to, who was it, John Kufuor?
Yes.
Like he handed over power to Kufuor, but at the same time, he was still participating in the background with trying to make his candidate come back and win the election the next time. When the wife tried to launch a presidential bid, there are those internally and externally who said, this is Jerry Rawlings who's feeling that his country is not being governed the way he would like, because he kept expressing his opinion on how he hoped things would be running, and he was feeling like those in power were not listening to him. And here he is now trying to come in through the back door in the name of his wife.
But that was a beautiful thing, in my opinion, because that pushback is one of the hallmarks of democracy, and is what makes democracy work. You're not going to sit pretty and think just because you're there, things will... You will get pushback. So in order to allay the pushback, you will actually do the things you say. So when you talk to your people, you say, look, folks, I said I was going to do this. Have I not done? This is what we said we're going to pursue. Have we not begun? And if you're sleeping on the job, you wake up to the realization that this guy can come back.
So better do what you're supposed to do.
It is. That's the beauty of this politics that we have, where you have opposition parties, and because it's understandable and it's been understood for a long time, human beings left on their own will end up doing the very thing that works even against their own interests.
Yeah.
So they need a check and balance consistently.
They need to be reminded.
Oh, they do.
Of where they are and what they're doing.
It's very, very easy to get cushy and cozy when you're in power and to think everything is okay, because when you look around you, everything seems okay. And all the other people, even when they're trying to make a statement of fact, as far as you're concerned, they're making noise.
So, well, he is passed on, but he was also involved in a bit of a peace deal just recently, wasn't he?
That man has been involved in very many such dialogues.
Yeah, a number of dialogues, trying to bring peace back to the country, and what he did in terms of, being very... I think it was a good thing for him to be vocal. Says, I've been there, I've seen it done, and I know this is the kind of direction that this country should be taking. So, come on.
There always will be
Doesn't mean
people.
that just because you're president and I'm no longer president, I don't have an opinion.
True. And secondly, that's he's saying this is what I would like to do. And he can say, this was my thinking, and when I was president, this is what I did. Okay?
Yep.
So now, if you want to challenge that, in all honesty, you can't just say, look, this guy's just talking. You have to say, okay, this is what I plan to do, and this is what I have done. It's a different discourse altogether. But the idea or the notion that they can be pushed back is an excellent one. And especially when you open up space and you know that the repercussions from that pushback will just be perhaps another pushback. But what we often fear is that there'll be retaliation. Retaliation of the violent variety, where you will be jailed, or you will lose your job, or your account may be closed even if there's no money. But essentially, life will be made difficult for you. Yes. And that's why people leave their country sometimes. They look and they say, here, I am not going to fare well. And unfortunately, our neighbors, Tanzania, seem to have fallen into that particular, should I call it bracket? Should I call it capacity?
How so?
Well, when you have a situation where people are not leaving your country because they want to visit the neighboring country, and they're claiming that they're being sought after and their lives are under
leaving
threat,
to stay alive.
it tells you that there's not much tolerance, or there's a clear indication that there isn't perhaps not much tolerance for people who have a divergent view. Yes, and that's what a democracy actually is supposed to be. It's supposed to accommodate divergent views.
And for the longest time, Tanzania had been able to do that.
There are those who would argue vociferously and tell you, my friend, it's just that many of the voices were snuffed, many of the voices were quietened, but it all was not well. In our own country, we've seen it. Remember, when this particular government came into being, it looked like the first thing they seemed to have focused on was communication. Did you see the battle they had in the media houses? Have you forgotten? They were essentially trying to muzzle media houses. That's what they were trying to do. And there was pushback. So all I'm saying is, it's something that human beings do. It's not that Kenyans are unique. But when you have systems which over time form a tradition, it becomes very difficult to claw back on it.
Yeah. 6:30, time for us to take a break. Let's see what's happening on the roads, and then we look at other headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. In the room this and every morning is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga.
Spice FM, Malindi.
It is Friday and traffic heading into the city from Thika Road already started at Utali towards Muthaiga, and it's already jam-packed from what we see. At the Pangani Tunnel also having some problems there. Trying to get into the CBD is a bit difficult. Forest Road, however, using that to come off of Thika Road is not too bad. Towards Museum Hill and then towards Westerlands and then out again towards the CBD is not a problem. Mombasa Road, on the other hand, is already moving very slowly now from the SGR out towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. That entire stretch is very slow at this point. Outer Ring towards Donholm and then towards Allsops using the back route. That is not bad as an option as well. All right, we're going to take a look at what it looks like now outside of the city. It being Friday, we know that there will be an exodus. So we'll let you know what that looks like. But for now, nothing too bad. From what Friday morning traffic should be. All right, talk to us as well. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Or 40127 via text.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What are the other headlines, big headlines that stand out for you, Ndu?
Okay, so clergy oppose BBI proposals and call for changes. The Catholic Church has joined growing calls to amend the Building Bridges Initiative, a report listing 4 contentious proposals to amend the Constitution it wants dropped. The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops yesterday said the BBI report requires serious panel beating before it is passed, amplifying calls to amend the report, which have been resisted by allies of President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga. Earlier, the Ufungamano Joint Forum of Religious Organizations proposed radical reduction in the number of elected representatives, while the Kenya Council of Church Alliances and Ministries proposed a National Delegates Conference to resolve contentious issues. So everybody seems to be throwing their hat now into the ring in terms of what needs to change or what needs to be amended in this report. And the church is not left out. They criticized the proposal for the president to appoint the prime minister and 2 deputies. And I quote, to give the president the power to appoint the prime minister and 2 deputies risks consolidating more power around the president, thereby creating an imperial presidency. This amendment could be creating the same problem they set out to solve. The expanded executive was supposed to reflect the face of Kenya and tame the winner-take-all structure. So, this was in follow-up to the statement that they made. Rather, this statement was in follow-up to the meeting that they had in Nakuru yesterday. And they're hoping that their calls will be heeded too.
Well, this just basically goes down to show. So these are the Catholic bishops. We also saw the Pentecostal bishops. We have seen the evangelical leadership also coming out to speak. We have seen the Northern Frontier District leadership coming out to speak. I think there's a lot of talk on, well, we need to have a conversation. And maybe that's what the president was also talking about when he was saying he was pushing for consensus. That's a headline in the Nation, in the Standard. Uhuru pushes for consensus, keeping the peace. The president tones down political rhetoric with major achievements of his government. He dished out more goodies to new businesses and rallied leaders to put public interest first and saying, let's work together. This is our moment to come together and do something about our country. So it sets the stage for more and more consultations and all about this BBI report. Let's see how that is taken. Let's see how that is handled. But at the same time, now that we're speaking of yesterday's speech by the president, he seems to say that he's admitting that what was supposed to be the legacy projects of his government, the Big Four agenda, are only not going to be realized. They are only going to be able to lay the foundation stones and the foundations for the Big Four agenda. This is what he said, that he cautioned Kenyans over expectations on his administration's ability to deliver the Big Four agenda, saying it may not be realistic to achieve the same within one term. He said that at best, by the time he leaves office in 2022, the administration would have only laid the ground for takeoff of the project. We give our solemn vow that by the end of 2022, would have laid an unshakable foundation for the realization of this vision, which is a shared aspiration for millions of Kenyans. So even as we mooted the Big Four intentions, we recognized then, as we still recognize now, that they would not be completed in a single term of office. At the same time, the president urged Kenyans to constructively and objectively consider the BBI report. So that's on the BBI. Coming back to the Big Four agenda, what do you make of that when the president comes and says, okay, you know, even from the very, very beginning, we knew we were just going to lay the foundation stone for this. But that's not what he has said all along.
All along, he said...
He wasn't saying the Big Four agenda is a foundation stone for future. He was saying 500,000 houses every year, getting everybody covered in universal health access. All those things are the things that you're saying. That's the drive for his second term in office.
You know what is unfortunate is that there's a backdrop to all this. And the backdrop is other promises that were made by this particular government. And the only difference is that we were not told these things were not going to happen. We saw it for ourselves, arrived at our own conclusions, and we moved on. However, I actually look at this as something positive. When the president actually comes out and states, look, folks, these things are not going to happen as we said. It is a good thing. If only he had continued along that same line and spoken, as you had suggested, just a little more bluntly about other matters that concern this nation. After all, he is talking to his employers.
Yep.
That is us.
Yep.
And your employer requires you to treat him with respect, and that is demonstrated by the level of truth that you directed him.
I think even this statement for me it's sort of ticking me off. When he says, even as we mooted the four intentions, we recognized then, as we still recognize now, that they will not be completed in a single term of office. Well, it's obvious, of course, that you're not going to have everybody housed within 4 years, but that's not what you said. You said that you want to get to a point where you're building houses, an X number of houses per year. You said that, and what's so difficult in actually getting the universal health coverage in the year by the time you leave office?
COVID
is a health emergency.
COVID is an economic emergency.
Universal health coverage is about health. In fact, of all the things that you could now be saying, in fact, in the next 2 years, to ensure that we are covered, should we have another pandemic or epidemic, we will have UHC.
I do not disagree with you there. In fact, there you and I are in tandem completely. Completely. You see, there are two discussions going on here as far as I can see it. There's what the president said and what seems to be like a lame duck expression. And in my opinion, it is, for me, very refreshing that a president can actually come out and say this. Because that statement opens him up to be shot in all manner of directions. There'll be reactions to it. Oh, this, he has failed, he has done the other. I actually think it is good. Remember the time when we were having this same discussion regarding the supposed debate on the president's decisiveness. And my view was, you know, folks, we need to be a bit serious about these things. When you have a president who seems to give you time to think, decide, president is lazy, president can't decide, then when the president says, okay, folks, time out, this is what we're going to do. This president is only picking on certain people. This president is draconian, state capture. I said, hey, guys, so which is which here? Okay?
However, this would seem as though you got to the point when the realization came that these projects, which essentially, number one, would be legacy projects, or they would be projects that would really help in terms of the development index of the country, there was the realization that, hold on, this might not actually happen. So then you come out and make a statement as if it were from the beginning that what you actually meant was to set the stone. Whereas what you told Kenyans for the longest time is that these things would be completed by the time my administration is leaving office.
And there was nothing actually stopping them from doing these things.
Yeah.
However, remember, when you politicize a development issue, then things will go very wrong. Not might, will go very wrong. Because you are talking about a purposed intention as though it's a reality that you have full control over, and yet you don't.
You don't.
You actually don't. From the get-go, you don't. Think of any political pronouncements that people make, all right? Any politician. It is always said with a certain definitiveness as though it's a done thing. And you're wondering, okay, done where exactly? Because you actually can't see the realization of it, and yet the politician talks about it as though it's done. Now, it's something they're used to doing. It is refreshing that you have a leader who is saying, folks, this one cannot be done. If this is the beginning of him coming to tell us about the things we probably already know can't happen and won't be done, it is good. But there is need for them to come up. This story of telling us, well, there are no countries in the world where they have issued protection from the citizens in pandemics. Nonsense.
Absolute
Utter nonsense. We are not the rest of the world. In this country, you have a job. We want you to tell us what you have purposed to do to ensure that the lives of the people who voted you in, including those who didn't, are looked after, because this pandemic has found you on that chair. It's your job.
Yep. It is you who's there. How many times have we talked about the Big Four agenda and the realistic, the expectation that this is actually not likely to happen? When the National Treasury goes ahead and says, even our budget this time is still premised on the Big Four agenda, when they go ahead and say that, all our projects going forward are focused on the Big Four agenda, and then the president comes and says, we are laying the foundation stone. So let's look at the foundation stone. Have we bought the plot yet? Do we have maram and ballast? Has it been poured? Do we have the stones? Have we started digging for the foundation yet? Have we seen excavators actually putting up the foundation? So in terms of the universal health coverage, we only had what? The 4 counties doing the pilot project. 2 years later, just the other day, last week but one in Mombasa, is when the president then met with the governors and it said, let's launch this thing countrywide. In terms of how that implementation of it is going to happen, we haven't seen. He is still talking about we are going to do what with the NHIF? They are going to revive and revamp the NHIF so that it can offer this. How many times
do you revive this NHIF?
It has not happened, all right? 3 years into this administration, it hasn't happened. You're laying the foundation stone. I can tell you haven't started even digging this foundation for UHC. 1. 2, housing. Where are we? All right, housing, you can say they have done the pilot projects as well in Nairobi. They are launching the ones in Mombasa, in Pakistan, and the other one that they are going to roll out. Okay, so that is what? Pilot. That is buying the piece of land. Plot, umenunua. Now the next thing is you want to do what? Then start digging up for the foundation. Food and security. The ministry has rolled out this policy now, which is about food security, agriculture and food security. Where are we on that? Manufacturing. The leather thing here in Athi River hasn't taken off. Dongokundu hasn't taken off. Naivasha Special Economic Zone hasn't taken off. So where are we on this foundation laying? How does he want us to judge him by the end of 2022? What level of foundation shall we have? And what is it that we shall say, yes, this is now the foundation? Is it the talk? Or is there going to be anything tangible that we can say, all right, we have the foundation, now the next administration can come in and move on, start building? I don't get it.
Neither do I. And I think it's an escapist route from what he said yesterday. It really is escapist. Again, because you realize that this is not going to happen. So you basically tell Kenyans what we were actually doing was laying the ground so that somebody else can come and take it to the next level and move. It's escapist because you realize that many things do not allow you to do that. Whether it's impunity, whether it's corruption, whether it's fraud at so many different levels, whether it's just total disinterest in getting this country developed. It didn't happen. And then now you want to come and tell people that actually we didn't say we were going to finish it. Yes, you did.
No, that's not what we said. From the very beginning, we knew, and we know now, that it can't be achieved.
It can't be achieved.
You see, when the president actually admits to meeting you at the point where you've always been, let us see it for what it is. It is progress. Because we've been treated to some serious magic thinking drama for a long time. Computers for livestock, children, everybody, universal health for everybody, livestock, trees. Now, suddenly you have a situation where, and Kenyans have watched this drama and said, okay, let's wait and see how this will turn out. Now, the president has become a Mwananchi. He's with us.
Where I'm also seeing with you guys.
Yes.
I'm also watching.
I
and
am
seeing
happy
that
to welcome
this
him.
thing,
He has done a good thing.
He's here.
No,
We're together.
This is how progress is made. He has seen, he said, because with this eye he now has, he'll be able to see many other things.
You know what he's done essentially? There's the stage and you are in the gallery. So he's come off the stage
Stage
and
and
joined
sat
you
next
in
to
the
you.
gallery. So
And-
now
and-
let's all watch together.
Let's watch this thing. This thing that we're doing, you know, it's a bit problematic, this one, isn't it? Nani, what do you think?
Oh,
The
no.
president is...
Time for a break, 14 minutes to 7. This is the Situation Room.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So 14 minutes to 7. Kenya's biggest conversation. So as we just finished the review of yesterday's speech, so Moses says, there is Canaan. I can see Canaan. Can you see Canaan?
I actually can, because you see, Moses didn't invent it. It was already there. All he
But
was
can
doing,
you see it?
what he was doing
You
was
need to be
giving,
close
he
to
was
it.
giving, no, he was giving Google directions. Okay? Turn left. Go through the Red Sea. Okay? Then you'll come across a certain mountain. It is called this. All right? But while we are talking about this mountain, there are other things that I'm going to need to do, because I'm going to have to go up that mountain and have a conversation with the
Then
CEO.
you wait for
with,
me.
with the CEO. Now, you wait for me.
I'm coming back.
The CEO is also chairman of the board. But Canaan is right there. Now, yes, me, I can see Canaan.
So the president says he has seen the promised land,
Yes, he has.
and he has led us through this desert for 40 years. We have been bitten by snakes. We have
Even said you want to
been
go back
hungry.
to Egypt.
We have,
People
we
have
have even
died.
wanted to go back to Egypt and said this is a better thing to do.
But at least in Egypt, there were leeks,
It was milk.
milk, and a little honey,
Uh-huh.
which you saw other people eating.
And now he's brought us and he tells us, now this is the River Jordan. Now my question is actually, are you at the River Jordan?
Yes. We've actually been at the River Jordan. It's not just River Jordan here, it's a combo. This is the River Jordan and the Red Sea. Because if you look at the multiplicity of the problems we have in this country, you can't liken it to just one river. It has to be a bigger water body for you to appreciate the enormity of it. And we've been here for the longest time. That's why I'm repeating. I am delighted with what the president said. Because the president has at last become a Mwananchi in this country that he leads. And he knows these things can't be done. However, we now, again I'm repeating, let's wait to hear what actually can be done. Because when you start with that level of honesty, what you're doing, you're setting the example for honesty. We can now then be honest and say, Mr. President, we know you're not going to give us face masks, okay? So, can you at least just give us the fabric, since we manufacture it, so that we can make our own face masks?
You know what he'll tell you? Ask Aaron.
Eh,
Face masks are on the other side of the river.
yes.
Aaron is the one who may have brought you this far.
And then we will also ask him, all right, Mr. President, since that seems to be a problem, then let us ask another question, meaning we'll be having a different dialogue. And he has begun that different dialogue. And if we were to take it perhaps a little more seriously, this issue of COVID cannot be addressed by pushing the issue to international issues about pandemics from 1918 to the current. That won't wash.
Yep.
It has to be this, we as Kenyans, this is how we are going to treat this. Because COVID is not a health problem. It's not a health disaster. It's an economic disaster. It's a cultural disaster. You know, it's changing not just the landscape of our health. It's changing the landscape of everything that we do. So you cannot just push it aside and say, well, NHIF is certainly not going to do this because pandemics are never covered by these things. Tell us something we don't know, like how it is you plan to ensure that despite all these things which are facts, what it is you want to do. And if you require participation, tell us what you think we ought to do. And please don't tell us to do what you've already told us, because that one we already know. And it is clear we're not going to do very many of those things. Yes, tell us something else.
So you want him to come back now next year in the State of the Nation address next year to tell us?
Nope. This is a
Because
conversation.
yesterday he didn't.
This conversation has begun, and if he's keeping quiet, we are continuing with that conversation. And we are going to continue it with the ministers, the CSs who are in charge of agriculture, food security. We'll carry it with those who are in charge of health. We'll carry it with those who are in charge of internal security. Everyone who has a job to do right now has to be at their best game. This isn't a time for business as usual. It can't be. And business as usual doesn't mean making these bold statements
and then following it up with nothing.
No. Just simple statements, but which we can take home and
you can take it to the bank and cash your check.
Well, we actually just wanted to provide light. We don't want. Yes,
There are things.
no, something which is
too much
possible.
to ask.
Light,
Just
so
a
that we
little
understand
bit.
this is what we need to do.
Okay. A few other things happening here or there. 11,000 Ethiopians flee to Sudan over conflict. So this is a major thing that's going on. We're going to talk about Ethiopia later today. However, at least 11,000 Ethiopians fleeing in conflict in the Tigray region. They've crossed over into neighboring Sudan. The UN Refugee Agency said it was helping Sudan to provide aid to more than 7,000 refugees who had crossed from Ethiopia in the past 2 days. And they're saying that the number is likely to rise sharply. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok quoted saying yesterday that stop the fighting as soon as possible. I mean, it wasn't flowery. It was saying stop this as soon as possible because we're likely to have a humanitarian crisis just because of the influx of refugees and in terms of how they're going to be able to help all these people, whereby Sudan itself is not in the best of situations. And not too far, if we're just looking at the rest of the region, Kabuga pleads not guilty at The Hague. The alleged financer of the 1994 Rwandan genocide, Felicien Kabuga, pleaded not guilty Wednesday as he made his first appearance at the UN court after a quarter of a century on the run. He was once one of Rwanda's richest men, as we know, and he was captured in Paris some months ago. He entered a plea, and he said, given the... and his defense lawyer, Emmanuel Alti, said Kabuga was very tired and preferred not to speak, and so he spoke on his behalf when he entered the plea. And he said, given the situation, I would be grateful if you would consider this lack of response as a plea of not guilty on all counts under the rules and procedures.
How old is Kabuga?
Kabuga is now in his 60s.
It's not. Much older than that.
Yeah.
Let me check myself.
Just a
Kabuga
minute.
is much older than that.
Sorry, in his 80s, sorry. He's in his 80s. Now he's in his 80s. He was arrested in France in May and transferred to the court in The Hague in October to face charges of a key role in the killing of 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus.
Why I bring in the factor of his age, Kabuga, in my mind, exemplifies something that anyone who's a politician should take heed of. Consequences.
No matter when,
Yes.
they'll come to bite.
Yes. And do you really want in your 80s? Is this what you actually want your life to be? Because this is going to affect not just you. It'll affect your family. It'll affect friends. It'll affect people. The ramifications are truly and honestly broad.
It was interesting watching these proceedings as he said what he said, because many questions started to pop out immediately. Because if he was not guilty, why was he then on the run for the last 25 years? In his 80s now, that means he started running when he was in his late 50s. And he couldn't be found anywhere. Allegations of him being in Kenya, India, Congo, in South Africa, in Belgium, then in France where he was eventually caught. Why run and then plead not guilty and then bring in issues of being, physically fatigued, mentally as well? You must understand also that somebody at that age is probably starting to border on the senile as well. So it's going to be an interesting process.
I find it is instructive that one should look at the life of Kabuga and understand that there are many things that you may have done which you thought were done in secret and would never be found, or it didn't matter then. And then it gets to matter.
Yep.
I was reading about Peru. their Congress or their parliament got rid of their president, but that's not what caught my attention. What caught my attention was the number of presidents Peru has had who have not only been taken to court for corruption, but some have been jailed.
Been jailed, yeah.
Former presidents. Now,
it's so unusual to you because you live in a place you
jail.
operate. Yeah,
Even
it's so unusual
forget
because
jail.
you're like, wait a minute,
Questioned.
this is actually happening, right?
Now,
But
Korea,
to people on the other side, on the other end of the
Yes.
world, it's normal.
South Korea,
Yeah.
have a lovely history of this. They've jailed former presidents. Meaning, you are the president, yes, these are the rules by which
You
we
must
expect you to
operate.
work now.
Yes.
Yes. So you run into these legal headwinds because you have abrogated the rules which you swore to uphold. Okay. Now, again, consequences come in. And it helps because it then provides that platform from which not only dialogue can take place, but meaningful change can actually happen.
Can happen.
Yes. But why I wonder is because intolerance, remember yesterday we were talking about this paternalistic view that politicians have of the population, the citizenry. Now, you carry that thinking of you can't question an older person, you can't question a leader, you can't have a divergent view, which means once the leader has spoken, that is the universally accepted view that everybody must abide by.
Seems to be something like on the continent. It seems to be just on this continent of Africa.
Nope, it's
you
around the
can't-
world. It's
that you
around.
can't question
if,
authority.
If you thought that was an issue, you just need to focus on a country that recently had an election called the US of A, not Tanzania, and you will find that it's a human condition. How many people has President Trump let go of because, from what we have read, they disagreed? And some are now being accused of being unpatriotic. And that's a term that we knew we had taken full control of as a continent. Anytime someone opposes you, they're unpatriotic. And then they throw in, there's a new phrase, national security.
Yes.
This person is threatening national security. And the moment that comes in, it means they're saying they can do anything to you. Did it not come out in Nigeria? These protests are not now just protests, but they're threatening
threat to
national
national security.
security. Now, you tell me, the conversation then changes.
It does. Until now, they're even suing the protesters
Yes.
on behalf of the state.
Yes. So, when you think about it, what you need to understand, and Kabuga, as I said, in his case, he exemplifies this. Questions are going to be asked.
Yeah.
Right now, the president of Kosovo resigned, went to The Hague. He's not alone. He has,
Took himself to The Hague.
yes, there are issues of atrocities that were committed.
During the war.
Yes, during the war.
Yeah.
Because he led the Liberation Front, a guerrilla outfit. But as the conversation goes on, things that you may never have heard of or known will come out. Some of them may not be positive at all, but they will come out. It always does. It will out. All these money that people think they've kept in safe places.
And then they're okay, using it to educate their children. And
Remember we talked to the Swiss ambassador to Kenya a while back. And he told us about the changes in their laws that guarantee that wealth that was ill-gotten and can be proved was ill-gotten, how it finds its way back to the country. And they said, we don't give it to the country. No. It is through development projects so that the money actually gets to the people. It will out.
Verily, verily. Surely, one day.
Sooner than you think, really.
It'll
Sooner
all
rather
come
than
out.
later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Keep it right here. We have more conversations happening in the next hour. First, from the very beginning of the hour, we're going to have a conversation with the Multichoice. These are the ones who run DSTV and GoTV. A wonderful festive season coming up, and they have some lovely offers that they are rolling out in the coming days. And also, we'll have a conversation about the Law Society of Kenya and the position of the Law Society of Kenya. Is it a brave new bar, or is it a Tower of Babel? What's happening at the LSK? Keep it right here. We'll also be live on KTN Home. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
traffic started all sorts on Thika Road this morning. It's crawling along slowly all the way then to the Pangani Tunnel, and then it takes some time before you'll be able to get into the CBD. It's not so bad at this point, though. It'll take us a while to get into CBD, but that is not looking too bad. On Mombasa Road as well, as you're trying to get into the center, you'll stop somewhere around Uhuru Highway, just around the Nairobi Stadium roundabout, and it'll be very slow as you head then towards Westlands. So we see a clog up on Mombasa Road, we see a clog up on Thika Road as well, and all roads lead to the CBD this morning. The back route, though, then using Donholm and then getting out towards Allsops, that's fine. The eastern and southern bypasses are flowing very smoothly this morning. Industrial area, and then you come trying to come out and at Jogo Road as you then head to the CBD. That's moving very slowly as well. We're going to take a look at outbound traffic of the city today, it being Friday, and let you know what that looks like in a short while. You can text us on 40127 or you can tweet us, SpiceFMKE.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Wherever you tuned in, happy Friday to you. This is Friday the 13th of November 2020. We're beginning the second hour of the show. We'll now be live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours from now until 9 a.m. We are also live online, Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and spicefm.co.ke. CT, as we begin this new hour, what is today's proverb?
If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents.
If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents.
Eh?
Okay. So basically, keep your eyes open.
Actually, don't just keep them open. Please make sure you see.
See the facts.
Yes, you may have your eyes open, but you are determined not to see anything. Meaning, you sort of like glance and it might as well not even have happened or not been there. Yes.
Makes no difference at all, right?
Make a point to take in the details, please.
Let's have a conversation about Multichoice and Multichoice Kenya. So Multichoice, of course, runs DSTV, they run GoTV, they also run Showmax. It's about entertainment. Many people know about Multichoice from the kind of entertainment that they enjoy. If it's sports people, the sports enthusiasts, they know where they get the Premier League or the La Liga or the Bundesliga or the Italian Serie A, all of them. Or if it's about Formula One and the rest. Those who love crime and investigation, there is crime and investigation, or those who love documentaries, those who love entertainment, telenovelas and series, you'll find them all there. But if I ask you the question today, who's Multichoice? Do you know Multichoice more than you know DSTV or GoTV?
Actually, it's what comes to mind. I wouldn't even think Multichoice. I'd think DSTV. And then when Multichoice comes and asks, who are they really? Okay, now, what's the relationship with DSTV? And perhaps somebody ought to explain to me this.
Let's bring in the managing director of Multichoice Kenya. Her name is Nancy Matimo. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the Situation Room, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So let's just start off from that point. CT is asking, who is Multichoice?
Well, that's a question that everybody asks, and Multichoice is our corporate brand. And it's a brand that carries all the video entertainment brands that's GoTV, DSTV, and Showmax. We are a house of brands that also includes Mnet. So ideally, you will never come in touch or into contact with Multichoice, but you will experience that through our products and platform brands. At the onset or the backdrop of these brands, there is one thing that we all stand for, and we are brought together by Multichoice under the umbrella of our brand purpose, that we stand to ensure that we exist to enrich lives. We are Africa's best storyteller in 50 African countries, and one of these countries happens to be Kenya. So that's who Multichoice is. Africa's best storyteller that brings you the best video entertainment, and we lean on two key platforms. Sports, we bring you the best of world sports. As you have rightly stated, we have EPL, the English Premier League, and so many other forms of sports. We also bring you the best of local content, and we have been investing quite a bit in developing local content and Mnet with Maisha Magic East. And we'll be talking about that later.
Right. I consider myself better informed. However, what would you say as Multichoice through DSTV is perhaps your most popular product, and why is it your most popular product?
Okay, so popularity is relative because it depends on which context of what consumer segment that you're talking about. So our GoTV brand is actually quite popular in the value segment, and specifically with local content on Selena, which sits on Maisha Magic Plus, and Pete as well, and Hula Baloo, which are all locally developed TV shows, TV series with local actors like Jasiri on Pete. But then when you come to what we call our flagship premium brand, which is DSTV, that showcases a lot of international content and high premium quality content, then it is the preferred and most popular brand in the premium segment, so to say.
When with GoTV, which market were you trying to capture?
So we are, you see, initially when we launched 25 years ago in 1995, DSTV was unreachable, just like most other technology brands that are launched in the country. And it was not accessible to everyone. And the main problem was the type of infrastructure. It's satellite infrastructure delivered to you through a satellite dish, and you have a decoder in the front of your living room or wherever you're watching from. And that technology is inherently a little bit more expensive than terrestrial ground technology, which is what GoTV runs on. So we then came up with a much cheaper, more affordable platform that we could offer just as great content, but at a right price point to democratize access to as many Kenyans as possible. And since then, we've actually seen up to 3 times growth in the GoTV market or customers if you compare to DSTV. GoTV customers are actually 3 times DSTV customer, and would be expected. It is a product designed for the majority of who we are as Kenyans.
Sure. A lot of people would see this as a luxury item, right? Something that, okay, if you didn't necessarily have, you wouldn't die. Okay. However, entertainment we've also seen is very important for people. How have you been able to make it so that somebody would then not look at it as a burden if they were going to spend a coin to invest to be entertained via television?
Right. So most of our customers that effectively remain connected onto DSTV and GoTV or Showmax, and I believe you are, I am, all of us are. One of the main reasons is access to quality information and reliable news and the truth, which comes from a multiplicity of platforms that we provide, of news that we provide. So when you look at it, it's not exactly a luxury, but I do agree with you that there's a lot more work that we need to do to make it more accessible, which we are continually doing. It may be perceived though, and that's the way I prefer to look at it, as an aspirational product that fuels your passions. You want to know more. The entertainment that we bring is curated for the African Kenyan market as well, that is deeply connected to the passions. There are people who have actually built businesses arising out of their passions being aroused through TV, and especially DSTV, using the cooking shows. There are many people who will tell you that they watch Nigella, or they watch David Ramsey, or they watch other various famous chefs, or the master chef, and as a result they have become they've actually developed a business and become chefs by their own right. And then we also have, on the other hand, education content, a lot of it. And we are increasingly building education content. We carry the national channel of edutainment, that's the Edu channel, Edu TV, which screens all of Kenya's 844 curriculum. And now we are carrying TV 47, which is sponsored by Mount Kenya University, which is the first tertiary university. So when you look at it, we are increasingly trying to get to the core of what drives and motivates the aspiration of Kenyans to get ahead, to move ahead. It's just not entertainment for the sake of entertainment.
Yeah.
Sure.
It is edutainment, information, entertainment, and bringing down the cost from when we used to buy decoders at 25,000 shillings or even 50,000 bob, those of you that bought the PVR, to as low as 3,999 for a decoder on DSTV. And then on GoTV to as low as 1,999, just below 2,000 shillings. So a lot of work to take away the myth that DSTV and GoTV is for the rich or those that have a little bit more. It is for all of us, and we continue to make it accessible and relevant to everybody.
I think the effort is absolutely commendable, but unfortunately in a country like Kenya, there are people who earn 3,000 shillings a month. They may not be that many, but they exist. So, which leads me to my next question. When you talk about market share, for instance, what percentage of this market that you're in does Multichoice actually have?
Right. So, Eric, we are a listed company on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And ordinarily, we are in the closing period right now, and therefore I will not be able to share very specific information. But as we sit, we continue to enjoy the privileged position of the market leader in the country and on the continent. The question, though, can be dissected a bit further in the sense that how many households of the 12 million households in Kenya have we been able to penetrate collectively as an industry? We are far from where we need to be. And there are so many factors that determine how we get to those 12 million households. It's not until 2 years or so back that we even got to as higher than 6 million households with electricity.
Yeah.
So 50% of households don't even have the basic infrastructure that you require to consume entertainment on technology that requires to be powered through the national grid or even the solar grids. But we are seeing gains in this area. And then what's also surprising, what is the penetration of TV sets and the penetration of mobile phones and the affordability of data and internet, because now you can access DSTV now on your mobile phone, on your smartphone or your tablet. You can also access Showmax on any smartphone or your tablet or even your smart TV. But we still, all of us collectively as economic players, that we play in the different sectors that we inter together. The telco industry and the digital technology media industry, which is where we are, must collectively continue to work to remove these barriers.
Have you
Drop
started
down
doing
the
this?
cost of interest. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And in fact, when we launched in this country Showmax, we launched collectively in a joint partnership with Safaricom. And you could dial *400 and access Showmax from Safaricom. And we also had a special bundle that was highly discounted to support your viewing of Showmax. So we are doing that collectively. But remember, even with DSTV and GoTV collectively, and at our own level of responsibility, it's about as much as possible bringing down the cost of access. We subsidize our decoders by huge margins, both DSTV and GoTV, just to make it accessible.
Well, okay. So, well, Christmas is coming and they're getting into the festive period where maybe more people will be at home and then have the opportunity to access this. And maybe people feel they can spend a little bit more when it comes to entertainment. So, you're diving into this as well at this point. And so, what exactly then do you have planned to increase your expansion and then have more people on the grid, as it were?
Okay. So, everybody loves Christmas. All of us world over love Christmas. In Kenya in particular, when I was growing up, I recall Christmas was when we had to go sit under the tree, be around all my cousins, my grandfather, my extended family. This period of COVID is going to be a bit different for all of us. We may not be able to enjoy those luxuries, but we still are able to share love, and we still can be able to bond and connect. This week we launched our festive campaign, and one of the things that we are doing is ensuring again the decoder is available at only a price point of 3,999 for DSTV, and for GoTV 1,999, just under 2,000 shillings for GoTV decoder. But what's even more, we realize that it is very difficult sometimes to reach us. And what we have done increasingly in the past few months is that we are bringing DSTV and GoTV closer to you if you don't have it or if you're able to buy. So we have our caravans and we have our teams expanding beyond the key cities, going into towns, going into villages, and we'll be taking and ensuring that we are maintaining safety precautions and observing the government regulations to bring to as many customers DSTV and GoTV. And whilst at it, we have also ensured that we continue to bring new content, a lot of new content, both on international and at the local level. So we have launched in November 3 new channels, one of them being the Kicks channel. We also have launched Zumu. We've also launched another channel we are calling Dizzy. Now this channel, and I want our listeners to listen very carefully because we shall be awarding our listeners and our viewers this morning to kick off the DSTV and GoTV festive campaign. And whoever gets the answers correct to the channels that we have launched, you will get a prize, a surprise prize. On DSTV, on channel 314, we have launched a new channel called Zumu. We have this channel is a children's channel. We have 15 kids channels, and this is just an addition to the 15 kids channels that we have. Zumu is a nature channel. It's fantastic. It's built with a child in mind, but education in mind. Learning about the habitat, learning about the animals, the different types of animals, and using lovely shows like the Leo the Wildlife Ranger and Cookie's Crafty Show as well. Then we have Kicks. I grew up watching Jackie Chan, and we watched Bruce Lee. I'm sure, Eric, you did.
Yes.
And sometimes also do Kung Fu. I was a girl, but I still loved to do the things that boys did, and I was possibly a tomboy at one point.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, okay, so what kind of... Yes, because there was Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and all the rest with the kickboxing.
Yeah. Right. So we have Kicks on DSTV channel 114.
So this is Kicks.
And it really is an Kicks,
Okay.
yes. And it's an octane of martial arts. And it's not just classical shows, it also brings you new shows as well. Yeah, so it's not just the old Jackie Chan. Then lastly, we have Timeless Dizzy. Now, a lot of Kenyans go to Istanbul, and we all love to shop from Istanbul. But what we say in DSTV and GoTV is that we bring the world to you. So when you can't travel, we bring you the experiences that you love onto your screen, right into your living room, or onto your screen on the move wherever you are at with your mobile phone. So Timeless Dizzy is a top channel in Turkey. It's a high-budget premium channel that brings series and shows. It actually has shows that have been recognized and have won an International Emmy Award nomination, such as The Black Money Love, Karadai, and The End. So yes, we've got Zumu, Cakes and Timeless Dizzy, which have just been launched this month. Zumo on 314, Kicks on 114, channel 114, and Timeless Dizzy on channel 123.
And the Turkish channel is in English. All the shows that are there are in English?
All our shows are always in English.
Okay.
So, yes, so even if it's Jackie Chan, we ensure that you can hear the content in English.
Okay. So those are the channels that you've launched now this month?
Yes. I mean, we will continue to launch more.
Okay.
But that's on the international scene. On the local scene on Maisha Magic East and Maisha Magic Plus,
Yep.
you must have seen favorite faces that are appearing on Kina. We have, and allow me to mention their names, you have the likes of Sanapai Tande, you have Jimmy Gathu, and this show, Kina, is gaining such popularity and is creating such a banter online. It is such a good quality production by Kenyan producers
It is
and
indeed,
Kenyan
actually.
actors. We should be proud. We should be so proud. And when I watch it, I get goosebumps because we've been waiting to exhale, to see quality content coming from Kenya that we can take international and be proud to export our own. You realize that when we watch international content, we're actually importing content into the country. So we have to work hard to invest in our own content locally, build our local artists and producers and everybody else that is involved in developing the content, and also take us to the next level as a country, and we start generating foreign income and forex from the shows. So on the other hand, we also have Hula Baloo, we have Pete, we have Selena. Selena doing wonderful. She's become a household name. Again, yes. So creating stars, but also creating serious livelihoods and growing the
local
entertainment
production
industry.
industry as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Who would you say are your main competitors in Kenya?
Our main competition to be, the fact is as a market leader, your main competitor usually will be those people that are providing alternatives outside the industry. Okay. So, and those are, where do you get your entertainment? For instance, Eric Latif. How often are you
This actually
on
was
the
CT
phone?
Muga asking the question.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
So CT answer the question. Where
Yes.
do you get your entertainment?
City.
Yes, CT Muga, yes. I'm Eric's cousin.
Muga. Okay.
You sound the same.
Yeah, we are cousins. Other known as my cousin brother.
Where do you get your entertainment from, CT?
Entertainment.
Yep.
I read.
All right. So books,
Yes.
magazines,
Uh-huh.
and newspapers. So publications is the alternative, is where CT gets his entertainment. I get my entertainment from watching some of your Multichoice products and other products as well. When it comes to
I
streaming,
love
especially
you all. You're being so kind and nice.
I know, isn't he?
Can I tell you the truth?
Yep.
The biggest competitor is the stories that people are sharing on their mobile phones. How often do you laugh at a joke on your mobile phone? How often do you get content shared on your mobile phone and you trust that it is news? How often do you get onto WhatsApp and you watch, a short GIF and you go like,
That's true.
that's quite
true.
exciting.
That's true.
So that is the creeping in competition. And if you see our innovation trajectory, we are developing and moving into a mobile-first world. Hence the reason why we have Showmax.
Okay.
Hence the reason why we are working on other products, which I can't mention right now, that will be coming through that will look just like DSTV now, but will have a user experience that's easy for you to reach on your mobile phone. Yeah. So the biggest competitor really is content that's sitting on your mobile phone. And then also you have other competition, like local content that is airing on shows, on platforms that are vernacular and increasingly growing. We have an affinity. There's something that you feel when you listen or hear a joke in your vernacular. I mean, I can't describe it, but
That's
we
true.
all know how we feel.
That's
Right.
true. Nancy, thank you very much for speaking to us today. And as you said, you want to award some 2 listeners and viewers this morning.
Yes.
We're going to do this via that mobile device, and this is you're using our social
Yes.
media handles. So we want to post a question on our social media handles, and then our social media producer, Brian, is going to help us pick the winner. So allow me to ask the questions, and then you tell me whether those are actually very good questions, whether we have learned anything from you this morning. So I think one of the questions that we want to ask is for you to name one of the channels, one of the new channels on DSTV. Is that a good question there,
Spot
Nancy?
on. Perfect.
Right. So name one of the new channels that has just been launched on DSTV, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Spice FM KE on Twitter. And then the second question, let's make this one go the Go TV way, right? So there's a show on Go TV called Pete, and there is an actor on Go TV on this show called Pete, and they
We can't close without asking everybody to join us together with the United Nations on a campaign we are calling Pledge to Pause
okay.
that has been running, and we are carrying on all DSTV media across the continent because we have a crisis with the COVID-19 pandemic. But we even have a bigger crisis, and that is the crisis of false, fake communication. It kills. If you communicate the wrong information around COVID, it is somebody's life that could be taken away.
Yeah.
So we are asking everybody, and we are imploring all Kenyans and everybody that watches the platforms, together with the United Nations, please pledge to pause before you share. Validate that the content is coming from reputable sources such as Spice FM, KTN Home. Those are valid, truthful platforms that we carry on our DSTV platforms. So we must be careful.
That's very true.
Let's be cautious.
So pause.
Pause. Pledge to pause.
Pledge to pause, yes. Pledge to pause. Thank you very much,
And
Nancy
that is
Matimo.
pause before you share.
Asante. Nancy is the managing director of Multichoice Kenya. They've launched a brand new couple of channels, and they're also getting into the festive season and saying, well, everybody get connected. Launching a caravan that's coming countrywide where you can access DSTV at discounted rates and also Go TV, and this you get the dish and the decoder. Asante sana. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. 28 minutes after 7. Time for us to take a quick break. Look at the weather and traffic on Spice FM, KTN Home and online.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Okay, showers in some parts of Nairobi at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 16. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 17 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 24. Looking at the weather in Eldoret, clear skies at 11, highs of 22 and lows of 10. And in Kisumu, it's raining at the moment, light showers throughout, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Mostly clear in Kakamega, however, at 26 and a chance of rains later on. It's light rain in Mombasa at 26, the high will be 30 and lows of 25. And in Malindi today, highs of 25 and lows of 17, mostly clear conditions for most parts of the day. Light rain in Kampala at the moment at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 18. In Dar es Salaam, it's raining this morning as well at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 23. And 14 degrees is sunny conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 24 and lows of 14. Lagos is experiencing some rains this morning, at 31 will be the high and lows of 25. And finally, for now in Kinshasa, light rain at 23, going to highs of 31 and lows of 22.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, guys. Kenya, the police are on Thika Road this morning. There's been a terrible accident, and there's a traffic pileup as a result of that. An accident including several vehicles near the Garden Estate flyover, and that is affecting traffic in and outbound today. So if you're in that area, approaching that area, please do so with caution. But this pileup is a major one this morning. Let's look at Jogo Road, where it's moving swiftly as you're heading into the city centre. Not much of a problem there. The initial pileup that we had seen, that has been sorted out. Okay, from Kikuyu to Limuru, there is a standstill this morning. Outbound, it's Friday, so this is what we will see. Heightened levels of traffic as people make their plans to get out for the weekend. Unfortunately, there is another accident, and this one is on Mombasa Road right now, outside the Gateway Mall on the highway towards Mombasa. The canter is currently being towed, but it's affecting traffic outbound on Mombasa Road. So we've seen quite some spots today where there's some issues. Please be careful. The roads are still slippery because of the rain. Spice FMKE, talk to us on Twitter or text us on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a situation room. In the room this and every morning is Eric Latif, my cousin brother, C.T. Muga, and my sister, Nduoko.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, now, wow. Let's have a conversation about the Law Society of Kenya. They had their elections for the president and council of the Law Society of Kenya just a couple of months ago. Nelson Havi was obviously elected the president. We know that because we have already even interviewed him on the show. And he ran on a campaign of a brave new bar. And what we've seen is the new leadership of the Law Society of Kenya has basically gotten a lot of attention, even in media attention, in terms of coverage, a lot of conversations in various platforms on what is happening now from the Law Society of Kenya, inside the Law Society of Kenya, and also what the Law Society of Kenya is pushing in terms of governance. For instance, the Law Society of Kenya was very, very vocal on the advice by the Chief Justice to the President on him to dissolve Parliament because Parliament has not met the requirement for a threshold of the 2/3 gender rule. And the LSK president had even decided that he's going to lead a delegation of a few members of the council and some lawyers and some civil society organizations to go to have a sitting in the Senate. And they actually did that. The Law Society of Kenya has also been very vocal on various other issues in corruption cases, in talking about how the fight against corruption is going, in talking about the governance of the country, in talking about even the BBI. They've lent their voice on this. Is this what you'd call then a brave new bar? Are you seeing some elevated conversations about the Law Society of Kenya, from the Law Society of Kenya, rather?
Well, I think because there are things that happen in succession, right? We saw that the expression of this brave new bar was very vibrant. It was very robust, or it has been, from the different acclamations that we've heard, especially coming from the president, Nelson Havi himself, and saying the things that they were going to do: occupy Parliament, storm Parliament, make demands of the executive, make demands of those under him for certain things to actually then be done. Now, I would say it was very brave in the expression. However, in the execution of the same, perhaps that same boldness and courage has not been seen or experienced. It would be also that when these actions then were now playing out to follow the words, that maybe they were not planned as well as the vocal sentiments that then were made. But it would seem that, unfortunately, for them across the country, it almost became a laughingstock, especially when we saw the issue of Occupy Parliament. That, okay, it turned out to be something else from what the country had been fed in terms of an idea of what then would happen. Does it mean that they have fallen back on their resolve? I don't think so. But I think that here we see typical example of how you can say something and plan to do it, but the actual execution is something totally different. And now the playing out of that execution for many people then might mean that this brave new bar then is not so brave.
Well, the bravery, I think, could best be described as intentions.
Intent.
Statement.
Yeah.
Yes. However, this particular post was competed for. Harvey wasn't nominated and opposed. Neither was he elected and opposed. And with any political post, because this is political, you will find that even as you have that job, there were people who perhaps did not share your views of this brave new world, and who, even when you're elected as the president of the brave new world, will not rest until their voices are heard. And usually, in political circles, it's not that their voices are heard. They pursue that particular goal by ensuring that at every turn, they point at failings, they point at paintings of the individual leadership style in the worst possible manner. One. Then two, there's just the reality of what your intentions are vis-a-vis what it is that it's planning to change. It's not as though this is some inert object. You're talking about situations and you're talking about people behind them.
Yeah.
They will have their say. They will have their push. So what we're seeing playing out is precisely that.
I love that you've said that, CT, because you say Brave New World.
Deliberately so.
Yes, and there was there's a novel that was written, and the theme of this book, Brave New World, by Huxley, was that the idea was that you had so entranced your people in this thinking that everything was all right. So then through that, you were able to hoodwink them even more to do things like steal and plunder from their resources. And I think it's very interesting that you said that, because it would seem that the intention of this brave new bar in Kenya with the LSK was to stop or to counter the effects of that same thing which Huxley talks about in his book, where he talks about the fact that citizens cannot constantly be fed this whole idea that it's the leaders who know what is going on and keep their people in this state of constant hoodwink, right? It would be in the statement, again, coming back to the fact that the action would seem that it did not feed into the lifeline of this particular statement. So I think that was very interesting that you brought that out. And I think for a lot of people, they're saying, okay, what we have heard and what we've been told in the last few months is actually not what we see. The intent could still be there. But, as people say, you can't feed people on intent. They will not be satisfied with your intent. They would be satisfied with your action and seeing tangible results of the same.
When you have all these kind of, issues coming up, and now let's just look at what's happening at the LSK at present. First, there's the issue of, do they have a CEO? Do they not have a CEO? Has the CEO been removed from office by the council procedurally, or has she not been removed from the office procedurally? And notice was even taken out by the president of the Law Society of Kenya with regards to Mercy Kalondu Wambua, and it says, take notice that the above pictured individual, Mercy Kalondu, ceased being Secretary and CEO of the Law Society of Kenya effective 19th October 2020. She is not authorized to transact, communicate, and deal in any way whatsoever in the name of and on behalf of the Law Society of Kenya. And after that, now we go ahead to say that a forensic investigation has commenced at the Law Society of Kenya over the handling of affairs because, according to the Law Society of Kenya president, 70 million shillings of members' contributions cannot be traced, cannot be recovered or punished. When those liable insist on remaining in office despite having been fired, it's worse when they're being protected by godfathers and godmothers. What is the president saying? The president is basically saying that we have a CEO and a chief executive who has been in office, who, as far as I am concerned as the president, is no longer in office, but she is staying in office because she enjoys protection from some godfathers. And yet we want to commence this investigation into how 70 million shillings was spent or appropriated in the Law Society of Kenya from the Law Society of Kenya coffers. Let's have this conversation with lawyers who are members of the Law Society this morning. One of them is Advocate Samson Masila, and the other one is Advocate Wilson Kamande Morigi. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
And thank you very much for joining us. I think we're just going to start off with you, Samson. Samson, when you look at, from those of us who are not members of the LSK, looking at the LSK and what is happening so far, we're wondering, okay, so what's this? Is this what the new leadership actually wanted? Is this what the people who voted in this new leadership were voting for? Is this what you wanted, Samson?
Eric, I want to start by saying that it is definitely not what any member of the society wanted for the society and the council. But the issue at hand is larger than we could see. It's a governance issue. It is an issue of malfeasance, an issue of breakdown of corporate governance within the society, and so the battle is here to go on because we believe that factionalism has been introduced by parties that are keen to muzzle the voice of the council and the president, and so it is regrettable what is happening, but it is a war that must be fought.
Would you say the same thing, Wilson?
I'm surprised that you have such sentiments from Samson. But my position would be one, that whatever is happening at LSK was expected, with something that was foreseeable. From the divisive politics that we have seen with Harvey, all the way from, was it in 2018, when he wanted to vie for president before he had actually got to the required age, and at the same time lost the Nairobi branch elections with all the accusations that were leveled against the winner at that point in time. The list of the campaigns that he carried out this time round, and the way he's been treating people, definitely something we foresaw. It's regrettable, it's unfortunate, and I believe going forward, members need to take action over such issues.
When you say treating people, how exactly is the president treating people? And I assume by people you mean members of the LSK.
Yes, members of the LSK. It's unfortunate, for example, when you go to social media and the first person to insult members is the LSK president himself. Yesterday, there's a meme that is going round of a certain gentleman who was referred to as a learned squirrel and scoundrel. Imagine such a thing coming from the LSK president. It's the same thing that happens even in chat groups, LSK chat groups. You get a person who has a very sharp tongue, very itchy fingers, that anything, any moment, you can get any type of insult from him. So I'm saying it is not something that it has caught some of us by surprise. It is not by surprise.
So I mean, if we're looking, we come back to you, Samson, just on what has just been said. How would you then, if this is the case, if these things are being said, if this treatment is actually occurring, is it something that should be coming from the president of the LSK in the manner in which it is?
One, I want to make it clear that I do not hold brief for the president. He can speak for himself. I think we should not be going into the character of the person. We should be going into the character of that office, and we should be talking about the conduct of the office of the president and also the council itself, the way it has conducted itself so far. I would not wish to discuss the person of the president or what he posts. That is up to him.
Okay, the president, the office of the president is run by an individual, right? It would be very difficult to be able to separate the two. Now, if you're talking about focusing on the conduct of the office of the president, it's not run by space. It's run by an individual. It's run by a person. So if this is coming out, is representative of the office. Now, those who may be on the receiving end of this or looking at this, they call it as the LSK, regardless of who it is that is saying it. Again, I ask, how then should this be dealt with? Or is it because it's an individual, it then should be ignored?
That's not my comment at all. My comment is that there are official communication channels through which the council and the president also communicate to membership and the society, and of course the public. And social media is not one of them. So to material that he puts on the social media, that is a matter that he can speak for himself. That is not a matter that I can comment on. If he wills it upon himself to communicate in that manner, then he can defend that to himself. But as to matters that concern the society and how to respond to that, I think there are communication channels which are defined and properly defined, and so that's the only material I can comment on.
Okay, so if we look at the LSK as a body, as itself right now, are there challenges that are being faced? Let's look at the Brave New Bar, which is something that was, brought about. It's something that, was run on, that possibly would have put the officials that are on that seat there right now. Are there any challenges that are being faced now from what you see?
Ideally, yes. There are many challenges that are being faced by that council, and I think one of them is lack of amity and perhaps also lack of ideals in the council itself. I do not want to cast aspersions or impute any wrongdoing on any member of the council, but from the communication we get in, because we are not privy to the minutes of and the meetings of that council, but from the communication that we're getting, it would appear that there's now factions within the council that are hell-bent against, doing what is right and doing what they were, elected in those positions to do. I want to say this. I associate myself with the ideals of the new Brave New Bar, and this, I believe, are ideals of the society itself, and also with the ideals of the society itself. And one of the issues was that we needed to clean, we needed to, straighten, we needed to align the secretariats to be more responsive to membership needs and to the demands of the council. When then the president and well-meaning members of the council take to that task, and there are persons within the council that are hell-bent to stifle that progress, then, it can be said that, there's a problem in there.
I want to ask this question because I actually don't understand it fully. The president of the LSK was voted in by a popular vote. Is that how the LSK functions?
Yes.
Right. Was there any opposition to his election? Were there people who felt that the elections were not fair and that perhaps there had been some underhand dealings that got him into position?
I don't believe such a challenge was posed, but there were challenges.
Okay.
There were challenges, and of course, the issue was not about a challenge to the winner.
So his election was deemed to be fair. And now, if that is the case, then are we then discussing the personal style of the president of the LSK, or are we discussing someone who is going against the protocols and the rules by which LSK is supposed to be run? What really seems to be the issue here? Because LSK is in the news every other day.
If you ask me, I can respond to that question if it is limited to a particular decision that has been taken. Perhaps if you're asking me about the issue concerning the CEO, the issue concerning Occupy Parliament, the issue concerning other initiatives taken by the LSK, I could be able to respond if it is limited to one.
It's purposefully broad so that you can take your pick how you want to respond, and not just you, your colleague as well can also respond.
Perhaps you can go first,
Eric.
This is CT
Hello.
Muga.
Hi, Muga. Sorry. Now, allow me to respond as follows. That the buck stops with the president. The buck stops with Harvey. And my position of saying this is it's based on the following: that Harvey has broken all the corporate governance structures, or the way how the council is supposed to be run. One is that council decisions are made by a majority of the members. Each of them has one vote in a decision that is supposed to be made, and if there is a tie, then the president has a casting vote. We have had and we have seen decisions whereby either Harvey imposes that decision on the council and says that this is how it's supposed to be done, whether a vote is going to be taken or not, or in a situation where he's outvoted, he decides now that he's going to take the decision of the majority as a decision of the minority, as now as the decision of the council. We know, for example, and the rules, what the rules stipulate, that any decision that is supposed to be taken at the council shall be by a vote. And we know that is what has been happening. It is not the first council that is casting a vote. There are things that have been done before. And the previous chairman and the previous presidents have always abided by the decisions of the council members. And that's how you respect council members. But now, when a person becomes a letter writer, that every time that he doesn't agree with the council members, the first thing he does is to write to the members and communicate his decision, and leaves now the rest to communicate the decision as the majority. It is unfathomable. You cannot really believe that is how a society is supposed to be run.
But then again, Wilson, the members of the council, have they raised the complaint about this? Have they taken any action about this? And what action is it that they're supposed to take procedurally according to the LSK rules? What is it that council member, an individual council member who feels aggrieved by the proceedings or the communication from any other member of the council, what are they supposed to do and what have they done?
Okay, one, I will not go to the particulars. I'll just give one example, and it is a glaring example of what has been happening right now. You remember that a vote was taken on whether the CEO should be removed or not. 9 members voted to retain her. 4, amongst them Harvey, the Vice President Kamende, and 2 other members voted to have her removed. Then Harvey went ahead and decided to say that we need a judgment to be written we need the reasoned rulings by all of them so that to decide, and he had to make the final decision on whether to send Mercy home or not. And then out of that, he decides that he's going to disregard the decision that has been made by the 9 members. Now, the 9 members went ahead to issue, imagine, the 9 members, after Harvey has issued his own statement now, the decision of the minority, indicating that it's a decision of the council, the 9 members had no option but to call a press statement and issue their parallel statement indicating their position. But I believe these are matters that are supposed to be dealt with internally. Yes? And whatever that is happening, I can tell you, for example, Harvey no longer, there is another issue that that has been happening, where Harvey wants to impose an auditor on the council. The council wants to make a decision. He does not want that decision to be made. How else will you, if you cannot offer leadership at such a stage, how else is it going to be done? In terms of how to deal with grievances, we know it is possible for a council member to be suspended, for example. The president cannot be spared. The VP cannot be spared. But what happens right now is not the time to go through that route. We believe that there is an opportunity.
Wilson, if I might just judge in, you're not telling me what the other aggrieved council members have done to have their issues, to seek redress or to have their issues addressed. For instance, I'd feel, if I'm feeling that I have been elected into this council and the council is being run, it's not being run properly, or the leadership of the council is not proper, there would be mechanisms within the LSK that would say how that issue can be addressed, not playing it out in the public. What is it that the aggrieved members of the Law Society of Kenya Council are doing to have their issues addressed?
One thing I know for certain is that in their communication to the members, they raised the objection to the manner in which the president was acting. The other thing, I'm also familiar with the happenings of the council, is that they tried to raise issues with the president during a council meeting that was held earlier this week, and the president refused to hear them, and he actually ended the meeting and said that no more meeting that is going to happen. So now you see, when you get to such a situation, their hands are tied. They have to make a decision. Either they play out in the public, or decide now, let's go with the act and decide as a majority we can suspend the president and the VP. But I don't believe that is supposed to be the way to go.
All of this has become extremely public, and you said something that was interesting now, is that these things should be handled or should be looked into without the public eye on them.
Yes.
But it seems to be the total opposite. And this is a question for you and as well as Samson. So if there are issues that are going on, everybody is seeing this as a result of the fact that it has been made public. And so then asking questions about then what really is going on as LSK, because it is an important, society in this country. It is important. But now it's under the full glare of the public. Should it be handled in the manner in which it is being handled? And we can start with you, Samson, on that.
No, one thing I'll say
Allow
is
me
that-
to just let's take a break now on KTN Home at
Yes.
5 minutes to 8, and then you can continue and you'll answer this question. You'll start off with you taking the question, Wilson, and then Samson. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are live on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and spicefm.co.ke. We're asking ourselves, what do we have at the Law Society of Kenya? Is it a brave new bar or is it a Tower of Babel? Is there communication and proper communication coming from the top leadership of the Law Society? And what do the members feel? So today, we are speaking to two members of the Law Society. Wilson Kamande Murige is an advocate, and advocate Samson Mastila as well. Time for us to take a break. We'll continue shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, the conversation continues on Spice FM, and KTN has taken a break. They'll be joining us shortly. Wilson, take the question.
Yes. Now, this is what I was, and I wanted to make it clear.
Yep.
Is that the issues we are having right now can be dealt in a better way. But the problem is one. When you have a tweeting president, and I would not want to say that LSK has a Trump of its own, but when you have a person who the moment they wake up, the first thing they do is to tweet about LSK, we passed a resolution at the AGM that we should create an account specifically for a Twitter account for the president of the Law Society of Kenya. He objected it and said that he's going to use his own personal Twitter account and sign off as false. Yeah. So every communication, even before it lands to the members, it passes through social media, either his Facebook account or the Twitter account. And that is the problem. That now the other members have no other option but also to respond using the same media that is the public. But I will say this: I believe we have proper channels of communication. There should be no muzzling of any member. If it's a decision that has been made, let it be communicated through the proper channels. We get our communication through emails. Members discuss, but I do not think it is right for anybody, either as the president, as the vice president, or as a council member, or even an ordinary member like myself, yes, to wear our dirty linen in public.
Samson, what do you have to say?
You know, Eric, I want to comment as follows. One, I would be very slow to impute improper motive on the person of the president. Secondly, I think this goes to my colleagues on the other side that are a bit antagonistic to the positions taken by the president. You can hear it from my colleague down there that the attacks are personalized on the person of the president and not on the substance of issues that have come forth. One, I will be very slow to impugn the decision taken on the matter of the CEO. I may not go to in the particulars, but they are well aware. Decisions of the council are contemplated to be made through consensus. That is by amity of the council itself, and that is what the contemplation of the members require. And if in case there's no that amity or consensus, then a vote is taken. Now, on matters that the rule of law is not a static concept, such that now you need to base it on one measure alone. Perhaps on the issue of the removal of the CEO. I think it had been agreed, and I understand that there was an agreement and consensus of the council that this being a matter of removal from employment or termination of a contract, then there needed to be a reasoned decision made by the council, because that is the requirement of the law.
Yeah.
And that there ought to be a judgment written by each member of the council, and that was agreed upon. So when they come to the council and none has a decision, and I don't want to, I want to be very measured, not to impute any wrongdoing on any member of the council, because I'm not privy to it. But again, when every work of the day there's a voice that tries to stifle the progress of the council, the president has to take action. Perhaps to quote Winston Churchill, a wartime president is faced by unique challenges, and sometimes he must take unconventional measures, to achieve results.
Thank you very much. So we continue this conversation in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, talking about the Law Society of Kenya with two advocates. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice
spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, even before we let you know what it looks like on the roads, I'm just going to put this out there and say, guys, we need to be extremely careful. A lot of the roads are slippery, even with the light rain that happened this morning, because we've seen accidents on Thika Road. We've seen another one on Mombasa Road today. We've seen another one in Thika Town. And outbound, the traffic is building up as it is inbound. So we need to be very, very careful. And yes, another one, a pretty bad one on Outer Ring Road this morning. And this is causing the pileup of traffic that we see there. So we're asking folks to be extremely careful. We know it's the weekend, but this is going to add to the traffic that we see. Getting into the CBD then towards Valley Road from Rawlings, Quebec, that looks pretty good. Heading into that part of the city, that's fine. We know that there's a clog up on Thika Road in both directions. Kiambu Road has also turned into a mashup already. And yes, we know that the Outer Ring Road near the Madari River, that's a mess because of this accident, and it's yet to be cleared up right now. So outbound of the city then, headed in the Limuru direction, the traffic is bumper to bumper. It is the weekend and everybody's heading out, we know that. So we're going to ask you to be extremely careful on the roads. Too many accidents have already happened this morning. Let us know if you're stuck or if you find an alternate route. Tweet us on Spice FM or text us on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Kenya's biggest conversation. We are now into the third hour of the show. We start the show at 6 a.m. and we conclude the show at 10 a.m. each and every weekday morning. In the room is CT, Ndu, and my name is Eric. On the line this morning with us is Wilson Commander Murigi and Samson Masila, both advocates of the High Court of Kenya and members of the Law Society of Kenya. We are talking about the affairs of the Law Society, and why we're discussing them is because we see many affairs of the Law Society playing out in public. Is this the image or the kind of reputation that the Law Society of Kenya would like to have? If you look at it from one end, you'll say that, you want a law society that is robust. Because as a law society, because of what we've seen from previous leaderships of the law society, they've been very active and very, very vocal on matters of governance, on matters of fighting corruption, on matters of upholding integrity. And this is what is also expected now of the leadership in the law society. When they come out and they're very vocal about, all right, so this is what we see. There is a matter, for example, that was determined yesterday in the courts, and this is about the National Police Service and who it should receive instructions from. And the court agreed with the petitioners in court and said the National Police Service should not be taking instructions. It's an independent commission. And the Inspector General of Police is an independent Inspector General of Police, should not be taking instructions from any other body, apart from just getting, for example, instructions, maybe what is clearly stipulated in the Constitution. This is a good thing that you see the LSK pushing that agenda and LSK pushing the boundaries and saying we are seeing things not going the way they should be going according to the law. Where would you say that the members of the LSK would look back and feel that we are taking steps in the right direction despite of whatever else could be happening internally? And I'm going to ask this question to you, Samson.
Come again, please.
When you look at what the LSK, I mean, the conversations that the LSK has started at the national level in terms of good governance, in terms of even going to court and petitioning, for instance, now this issue that was determined yesterday on the IG and the IG not taking instructions from the Security Council or any other organ, but being independent, and such other matters, or even Occupy Parliament, the move that was being spearheaded by the president of the LSK, Occupy Parliament, because there has been an an advice that has been written by the Chief Justice in accordance with the Constitution to the President in accordance with the Constitution. Is this, would you say that this is pushing the agenda, the right agenda for the LSK?
I first want to commend the Council and the President for taking this initiative. That is very commendable of them. And this is the right place of the Law Society of Kenya, that it ought to protect matters of public interest. It ought to push issues of governance and rule of law. And what we are seeing, that is the right track. Those are the reports that we need to be coming from the LSK and the leadership, and not the rank of the VA. But that is commendable.
Wilson, what do you say?
I would say, and going by Section 4, the mandate and role of LSK is wide, from issues of governance to issues of public interest, the rule of law, members' welfare, practice matters, and all that. And I would say that that is a fraction of what LSK is supposed to do in terms of the 13 functions that are given to LSK by virtue of statute. And going by the petitions that we know they have filed, it is a step in the right direction. I believe apart from public interest, it needs to look into practice matters. That is our bread and butter matters. Because as much as we want to appease the public, the members themselves, their issues also need to be addressed. The issue of member welfare, that is also another one. And then at the same time, we also need to put our house in order. We cannot at the same time try to save others, whereas our house is burning.
I actually find it very refreshing that this back and forth within the LSK is taking place because, one, it points us to, among other things, the fact that the LSK is robust and that it's willing to challenge even issues from among themselves. This is a good thing. However, given that many previous chairmen have actually ended up vying for some political seats or going into the political arena, how then would you dissuade a Kenyan like myself that all the wranglings that we're hearing have to do with 2022?
Can I go first?
Yes.
One, and I wanted to point out, unfortunately, when we talk about public interest and the rule of law, we have a president who is preaching water and taking wine, whereas he's busy trying to busy filing petitions challenging government actions, and which are legitimate, I would believe, so the petitions are legitimate. He himself is not even bound by the decisions that are made, for example, in terms of the law. And I would say that the issue of the sacking of the CEO itself comes to fore, where the law requires that a two-thirds majority should issue a decision for the removal, he gets a third, then goes ahead and takes that as a decision of the council. That definitely we are taking water. Sorry, we are preaching water and taking wine. But going forward, I will also say this, that LSK has been used by people before as a platform for campaigns. We saw Harvey in 2018 using banners for purposes of campaigns all over Nairobi. And I will not be surprised that he will also be on the ballot come 2022. And that's the reason why he's working with parliamentarians and political parties. The other day he was it a launch or whatever he's doing? There is a fringe party by the name of UGC, United Green Movement. That Mweke party is what he was saying, trying to, I think it was during its launch, he was giving a keynote address.
But
the other day
look, just because somebody is a president of the Law Society of Kenya does not make them now stop living the rest of their life. If somebody, for example, wants to, and he attends an event, it doesn't mean that he's attending an event in his capacity as president. It could be attending an event in your personal capacity. It doesn't stop you, or there's nothing wrong, I believe, unless there's any part of Law Society regulations that says if you are in the presidency or in leadership of the Law Society of Kenya, you should not express any political ambition. Is there?
No, there is none. And let me make this clear. If you look at the tweets that came from both Jonathan Mweke and that came from Harvey, he was there in his capacity as the president of the Law Society of Kenya. The other one is that they were together and they planned. You remember Occupy Parliament? Yes, it is the two of them who told the cops there that they had come to take a cup of tea. We saw the other day he was trying to host politicians at a senior council's home. LSK is not a political party. Under Section 4 of the LSK Act, there is no mandate whatsoever for LSK to participate in political parties' activities. That, if anybody can contradict me on that, they can. But what we are saying is that people should not use the platform, the LSK platform, to front their own personal agenda at the to the disadvantage of members' issues, welfare issues, and practice matters.
Has anything been done, in your opinion, Samson, according to what Wilson is saying?
I think they are wrong in their persuasion. One thing you can hear it from my colleague, and I think this is common with the people that are antagonistic on the person of the president. They dwell so much on the person of the president and forget that he's a public figure. He holds a public office. Policy is shaped by governance, is shaped by politics, is shaped by committee. When you come together with the other leaders, there's nothing wrong in that. And in any way, and I think you put it correctly, that being a president of the LSK does not limit you from pursuing other endeavors, whether political or personal. And so to impute any wrongdoing because he's in committee with a political leader is for me to go on the wrong way. Because I think the issue with that movement was all about tree planting and issues of environment, and that is a matter that is in consonance with the ideals of Section 4 of the Law Society of Kenya Act.
What should we see? How should we see it? Because the thing is that if anybody is fulfilling a particular mandate, Samson, regardless of what it is, and then now we see, just like you've said a few minutes ago as well, that whatever the issues are, if there are any, there is a manner in which they should be handled. What should we be seeing the LSK presenting in terms of the amendment and the mandate and fulfillment of the same? So as to remove this stain or whatever that is already on it, that is being perceived by the members of the public. What is it that we should be seeing the LSK doing on a daily basis that would take away from this?
If I get the question correctly, I think what we need is the resumption of amity within the council. And there are men of wisdom and women of wisdom in that council. And I hope the sooner the better, that they are able to put their hands together and do what is right for the membership and do what is right for the leadership. I think, firstly, there are so many serious issues to tackle as at present, including matters to do with the voice of the Law Society of Kenya in matters PBI, in matters constitutional change, in matters governance, in matters, the rule of law, in matters also to shape the policy in the manner in which our political leadership needs to behave, because those are matters that are interconnected with the rule of law and law. You will look at the decision that had been made by the ministerial committee directing the IG on how to conduct their duties. When they go to court and put it right that the law to be this way, those are the issues that we need to hear most of and not the random.
And the reason why we are having a conversation about this is because we've seen it's a series of communications that have happened among lawyers about the leadership of the organization, not just with the present organization. Even before this election, the last time there was an election into the previous administration, there was a group of lawyers who had come out and they were calling themselves Okoa LSK. And it was all about, we feel that the LSK has become too quiet, we feel that the LSK has become too soft, and we need an LSK that then occupies its rightful place in the society. An LSK that is right there in matters of pushing for a proper justice system, or pushing for governance, just like Samson, you're saying, pushing for all these other ideals of a society. How do we get there? You're both not among the older lawyers. You're among the younger lawyers, if I may just say so. But how then do we move the LSK? Do you move the LSK to that position where it occupied in a previous decade?
I think if I have to go first, I believe we're in the right direction. The leadership of the current LSK is in the right direction. led by the president and the vice president. And all we need is to join forces to take a common front as the council and the membership. I think anyway, we cannot do away with the issues that are internal in nature, because these are issues of accountability and transparency, and either way they must be tackled, whether by this council or another council, because the issue of financial malfeasance and accountability, and either way there's bound to be friction when such matters are being handled, and change does not come easy. It must come, and it will come.
Wilson.
Yes, allow me to contradict Samson. We are not heading in the right direction, to be very honest. We cannot be the talk of town about how chaotic we've been. Or videos are circulating of people changing doors at the secretariat, guards closing out gates for people. That the only thing that we can boast of are wrangles within the society. That's not the society we are yearning for. That's not the direction that we're supposed to be heading. And we cannot justify it by saying simply because everybody now LSK is famous again, then we're heading in the right direction. No, we are not. We have a leadership crisis, and that is what is ailing LSK right now. I can tell you I was part of Okoa LSK. We had issues then. We tried ironing them out. We tried going into the two councils that were there. Issues cooled down. We now have a third council after that. And I'm telling you, things are not as rosy as we see them. Where you see an LSK president who enjoyed 12 out of 13 members of the council, support of, is it 12? Yes, 12 out of 13 members. His support has dropped to 4 people, then there is an issue. You do not lose the support of 9 members within 8 months, and then you tell us that you're heading in the right direction. So I keep saying this.
Yep.
Yes, and this is where the rain started beating us. Is that we have a situation where you cannot balance in terms of what you need to achieve and what you need to achieve in terms of vendetta. We know that there is so much vendetta that is that some people have been engaging in. We knew that there was going to be witch hunt before these elections. We knew that people are saying that heads are going to roll. It started with interference with the senior council bar. The senior council does not even want to be associated with the affairs of LSK right now. Now tell us where you're going to get the voice of reason. And so we are saying, if at all LSK is going to head in the right direction, let us all reason together. Let us come together as the seniors, as the young, as the leadership, and let Harvey listen to the people. That's what we are saying. For me, let me tell you, I'm very honest.
Has this been put to him? Because, it may sound so basic, like something a child would say, but it would be that, has it been brought to him and said, look, the way in which things are going, it's not good. Has this been made very plain to him and say, is there a way that we can sort this out?
Let me
yes, allow me to interject and tell you this. When within the first 2 months, when people realized that something was wrong, letters have been written to him, he has ignored. He no longer responds. When complaints were raised when he reconstituted the senior council bar, he ignored it. And I can tell you, for example, he removed Fred Ojambo as the chair of the senior council bar and installed Ahmed Nafir because he believed it was his person. Nobody bothered, and people just walked away. When all these issues are being raised and people are telling him, calm down, Mr. President. We had an AGM earlier this year, and people told him that whatever it is, and at some point, branch chairs were mad with him, and they told him to calm down, listen to people. And he still thinks that simply because he's a president, that he's going to run roughshod on people. These are issues which have been brought to his attention. He does not listen. We've tried to get the intervention of the senior council bar. The other time they intervened during the barrio of senior Kitonga. The moment they took over the barrio, he refused to attend. what you explain that
Would
is
you,
happening.
would you say
So
that
I
the
will
vast,
tell you
if I
this.
may ask, please allow me to interrupt you here. Would you
Yes.
say that the vast majority of members are not happy with their president?
Yes, they are not.
And if they are not happy, are they unhappy to the point where they would be willing to get rid of him?
Yes, they can. I can tell you for certain, and without a shadow of doubt, that there are efforts which are being made by persons whom are known to Samson Masila, they are friends to Samson Masila, for the removal of LSK president. It is no longer a joke. People are tired about it.
Eric, let me interject.
All right, come in, Samson.
Yes. I think let's not blow this thing out of proportion the way they want. And I think we are wrong when we discuss individuals and mention names, in the wrong way. We should be measured in our discourse here. One, the issue in which the council has differed with the president is only one, on the issue of the removal of the CEO. None of the other decisions they have differed on.
Yeah.
All other decisions were reached by consensus. So we need not blow the issue of the removal of the CEO out of proportion. There are factions within the council, and they will better speak for themselves as to why this matter has reached this point. But every time there's bound to be a change in an institution, there's bound to be this friction. When Justice Mutunga tried to terminate the contract of Boshole then as a CEO, registrar of the judiciary, there were issues. There was a fight. There were court issues. There were court fights. It is not isolated. It's not unique to the LSK that now we're having an issue of this because of removal of the CEO. There are vested interest. There, she has also a vested interest there. She has also support from a section of the membership and part of the leadership, and so there's bound to be that friction. So let's not blow the matter out of proportion by imagining that now the council is broken. The council is not broken. They have differed on one issue. It's a matter of principle. I think sooner there will be resumption of amity.
So the way forward for you, Samson, is you think that the society right now is in the right trajectory, and everything, the affairs of there are a couple of teething problems or minor challenges in the running of the council of the society itself. But do you think that the society is in the right trajectory of getting to where it ought to have been?
It is in the right trajectory. I can assure you that it is in the right trajectory. The sooner we deal with the issue of the issue at hand, of the CEO, the sooner the better, and it will be dealt with very decisively.
Wilson says.
I think,
Wilson says that you're aware of a group that is already having conversations about removing the president or even having changes at the leadership of the LSK. Are you aware of this?
I am not aware, and I can tell you that is wishful thinking. It will not happen in the term of the president. It cannot happen. Yes.
What seems clear to me is that there are two distinct camps within the LSK, or maybe there's a third one that we haven't heard of. But surely, from among yourselves, can you not arrive at a consensus at how this matter ought to actually be resolved?
I think on the part of the persons that support the ideals of the Brave New Bar, and I say these are ideals that transcend any individual, whether the person of or the person that is associated with its leadership, is that we mean well for the society, and we mean for the progress of the society. The other persons on the other side, my colleagues, and I want to invite them to join us. The issue is that of the person of the president alone. They are not, they will not come to discuss the substance of the issues that he puts forth. When the president says we need to do an audit on the financial reports of the society, they do not come and say we are ready for the audit. They do not come and say I challenge the financial statements that have been placed forth before the public that says that the money has been lost. No, they attack the person of the president. They are quick to attack.
Can I please?
Yes.
Just respond to
that.
You see,
Samson is misleading people. Yes, that on the issue of there's any audit about money having been lost, and I actually wanted to address that issue before we take it out of hand. A letter was written by Harvey. A letter was written by Harvey alleging that money was lost. Questions have been asked. Today, answers have been provided. I'm sure Samson has not even read the response from the council members themselves on how the 50 million, the 20 million, and the 6 million were utilized. But right now, we want to sensationalize the matter that monies have been lost within LSK, so that can be used as the justification for the removal of the CEO. Nobody has objected to an audit. So when Samson comes and says that the other side is objecting to an audit, who has objected to an audit? This is a resolution that we passed ourselves. We passed at the AGM for the appointment of an auditor. But LSK, Harvey himself, cannot come and impose his personal auditor, a person whom they did deals at Tatu City, as to be the auditor of LSK. That is not going to happen.
Is there evidence to all these things that you're saying, really?
Yes.
You can hear my colleague. I do not want to get into that, but I have said it times many that the problem with my colleagues on the other side is that they do not want to approach the issues on merit. They want to dwell on the character and person of the president, and that now clouds the judgment and clouds the perspective of this matter. If we are to focus on the issues that are for, I will say as follows: one, that the rule of law was applied in the manner in which the issue of the CEO was handled. If there is a question about how it should be dealt, then I think it's a matter for the courts to handle. Either party is at liberty to approach the court and canvass the issues that they feel were done against their rights. Either the president himself or even the person against whom the decision was made. Secondly, on the issue of audit, I want to be clear. I have not said money was lost or any money has been lost. I cannot impute that wrongdoing on any person. I'm saying that the resolution of the AGM was that we need to do an audit by December because there ought to have been a requisitioned an SGM by December to discuss that financial audit because the financial reports that were presented were rejected by the membership. And when the president has requested, or the council has requested for financial reports or financial statements or material that would help them, commence this audit from July, and none has been provided to date, then there's a question. When the president goes forward and says, for the sake of membership and in the interest of the membership, now we must move forward and appoint an auditor. And the CEO comes and says, by direction of the council, that matter, the person that has been appointed as an auditor should not proceed with work. The process is ongoing. So what is this? What does that communicate?
There are issues. What it communicates is that there are issues that are happening within the management of the LSK, and I think just like CT Muga has said, these are matters that would best be discussed by the membership of the LSK, and I'm sure that's already happening. Whatever is happening is already happening within the membership of the LSK, within the ambits of the law and following the proper procedure. And we just hope to see an LSK that is robust, an LSK that stands up and represents at least the ideals of the citizens of Kenya. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Wilson Kamande Morigi and Samson Masila, both advocates of the High Court of Kenya and members of the Law Society. Asanteni sana and wish you a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for us to take a break as well on KTN Home on Spice FM at 28 minutes after 8 o'clock. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatliff and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatliff and True Black and the Standard Group.
Tell the DJ turn it up, let the DJ bring it back. Tell him that you like that.
Yeah. Rude boy, I'm a Rudy. See my fans wanna shangilia. It's that time again where we bring you the best of music and entertainment. The 6th edition of the Pulse Music Video Awards 2020 is here.
Kenyan music international and show the whole industry at large how to buckle up.
Owning the virtual space in Kenyan music is the theme for this year, so get those nominations coming through and we will bring the acts to you. Simply log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMBA and submit your favorite songs starting 3rd November to 17th November 2020, and we'll do the rest. This year, we are bringing the entertainment back to life. Pulse Music Video Awards 2020, the only way to get alive.
Next week on the Great Kenyan Bake Off.
Fire on the place.
The best 3 from each heat meet for the ultimate face-off.
I'm in this to win it.
It's Pastry Week. Join the bakers as they take on an old classic.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, guys.
And a signature that will show off just why they were the cream of their crops.
Dough can smell fear.
Don't miss the action as we find out who will lead the battle of the 6.
Smells like heaven.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
Okay, still light rain in some parts of Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 16 today. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri as well, highs of 23 today. The high will be 22 in Eldoret. It's currently mostly sunny at 12 degrees. Light rain in Kisumu at 20, going to highs of 28 today. The high will be 26 in Kakamega, mostly sunny conditions through into the weekend. Light rain being experienced in Mombasa at the moment, 26 degrees, and the high will be 30. The high will be 25 in Malindi, mostly sunny at 20, coming down to lows of 17. It's raining in Kampala at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam, rain showers at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Johannesburg is sunny at 15, going to highs of 24 today. And in Lagos, it's light rain and it will be the state for the rest of the weekend, highs of 30 and lows of 25. And finally, for now, it's light rain in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 23. Okay, still some traffic on Thika Road today. We have some major traffic on Thika Road in and outbound today. And in Thika town itself, not looking so good. Leaving the city and going towards Limuru, out in that direction, quite some traffic. Between Kikuyu and Limuru today, it's not moving. Very, very slow as there's an exodus of folks from the city for the weekend. So as you approach those areas, please be careful. And number 2, know what lies ahead. All right, inbound on Wayaki Way, there's a slowdown due to the diversion, and overlappers, as usual, are taking advantage of the situation. So traffic is being exacerbated and the roads are extremely slippery, especially in this area. So please be careful. The famous Donholm traffic is back. From what we're seeing, it's stretching all the way back from the quarry at Tasia to Stella in Umoja. So people are stuck here this morning. Let us know where else you might be stuck and we can at least offer an alternative of using the longer, however traffic less route. Spice of MKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM. Let's now cross over the borders and go to a northern neighbor and go to the northernmost part of that country, Ethiopia. There have been clashes between government forces and government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which is the one that controls the Tigrayan region. So according to what we're seeing in the news coverage this morning, just looking at various headlines, last 1 hour, BBC News says Ethiopia's Tigray crisis, civilians massacred, says Amnesty International. CNN, mass killings of civilians in Ethiopia's Tigray region, according to Amnesty. And 1 hour ago as well, on Sky News, dozens hacked to death as Tigray region fighting intensifies, according to Amnesty International. So Amnesty International has come up with this report, and they say that there was a lot of civilian death that was witnessed around Monday in that region, in the Tigray, in the northern Ethiopian region. And this was, according to Amnesty International, orchestrated by the forces that are loyal to TPLF, that's the Tigray People's Liberation Front. You know what has been happening here? It's a large-scale conflict between the government, the national government, and the local administration of the Tigray region. And we have seen also hundreds of people, actually thousands of people, reportedly crossing over from their country into Sudan, where they're seeking refuge. And Sudan has already said they're going to set up a refugee camp that's going to accommodate the people who are crossing over this region. What is this that's happening in Ethiopia? And why is it just, so sudden? It appears like it's something that was really building over time and a long time, and then it just hit that boiling point.
I don't think it's been boiling, yes, but it didn't start boiling yesterday.
Yep.
No. What Ethiopia has is something that was experimented on in Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia. It's usually termed as ethnic federalism. It comes with very many challenges. You have a federal government. Essentially, you are semi-autonomous. But it is your people who speak your language, who have your culture, who have your background. And the government that happened to have been in power before Abiy Ahmed came in was dominated by people from the Tigrayan area. So, remember, there were protests by people who come from the Oromia area, the Oromo, okay? Over a period of time, and there are those who argue it's what ushered in the current prime minister. Someone who represented younger people. Now, whatever they were protesting about, you see, you protest about something, one leader leaves. The person who leaves represents a community who also felt that they were in power. Now they feel disenfranchised, and there have been complaints that they're actually being targeted and they're actually being left out of the decision-making process. It's a political situation that is not uncommon. But when you have regions of the country that are militarized, they have their own police, they have their own army, so to speak.
So the semi-autonomy basically means that they even have power over security.
They do.
In their region.
They do.
And the regions are formed, just like you said, it's ethnic conclaves.
They do.
All right.
They do. So, if there's an issue that arises and it revolves around, remember how this one was parked off?
Yep.
Oh, these fellows attacked a
federal
military. Yes, and then it just escalated and it continued and it continued. And there are many other stories that will come out of this. This one is not going to end soon.
Let's bring in our expert, Horn of Africa analyst Rashid Abdi, who was speaking to us about Somalia now. Let's talk to him about Ethiopia. Good morning, Rashid.
Good morning to you.
It's good to have you again on the show, and thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
So let's just start by setting the stage for everybody to understand the situation in Ethiopia. So we've got a Tigray region, we've got a federal government. What are these other regions, and how is it that how has this political game been played out over the last, let's say, 3 decades or so?
Yes. Ethiopia's state is structured in basically it is a federal system. And what makes Ethiopia's federal system unique, I think, is the fact that they have accepted the idea of ethnicity or ethnic-based federalism. And this ethnic-based federalism was designed, I think, by Meles and his people in the early 90s as part of a strategy to accommodate ethno-nationalism and ethno-regionalism. And to some extent, it did, I think, bring down some of the tensions that were in the country. It gave the regions greater autonomy for them to be able to feel that they are governing themselves. But then I think because the federal system eventually didn't work out properly, we saw how quickly discontent began building up in many of these federal states. And it was this, I think, discontent that eventually catapulted Prime Minister Abiy to power, because there were 6 years of rolling, non-stop discontent and uprising in many parts of Ethiopia that eventually culminated in, the crisis which led to Abiy becoming the Prime Minister. So, yes, I think one has to understand that context, the ethnic federal arrangement that to some extent did help stabilize Ethiopia, but because it didn't work out properly, I think eventually began to foment the crisis we see today.
So even with this and how then the Prime Minister came to be Prime Minister, then there are certain sections of the population that are not happy, isn't it? If we can put it as simply as that.
Yes. There has been a lot of discontent and protests in Oromia for a number of years. Despite the fact that the Prime Minister is Oromo, we have seen actually Oromo discontent actually escalate. And this also problem has also intensified in other parts. The Tigray problem is also a classic center-periphery tension, which has escalated and now has become a serious conflict.
How have they run their governments? I mean, yes, there is a federal system, ethnic-based. Have they had consensus, as in some sort of coalition understanding, where when it comes to running the actual government of Ethiopia, people feel that they are represented?
There have been attempts to build some kind of cohesion between the various ethnic communities in Ethiopia. And the EPRDF, I think, was a precursor. The Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front basically was a coalition of a number of parties. And Prime Minister Abiy actually dismantled the old EPRDF and built his own Prosperity Party, but along the same model, which is bringing together all these ethnic constituencies into some kind of a grand umbrella. Something like the Jubilee Alliance of Kenya, for example. The idea is the same. It's about building a big tent kind of politics in Ethiopia. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked out because Abiy, despite those positive traits, I think has monopolized power, has actually bypassed many of those party and governmental institutions, and has become essentially, I think, a one-man rule, which has I think exacerbated or aggravated the current crisis in Ethiopia.
Sure. So with the current crisis that we see, then if we're looking specifically, what is the bone of contention? To push for this shared government, shared way of doing things, to remove the current prime minister that has then now resulted in the clashes that we see. What is the one thing that we would say, if this was sorted out, then you would likely see steps towards peace?
Yeah. The current crisis is has been brought about by, I think, many factors. And it was very clear for a number of months that this crisis will eventually end up in a conflict, because what we saw was basically one escalation after another. The Prime Minister cancelled the elections, and which were due in August this year, and said that this was because of the COVID situation in the country. The TPLF dissented and basically said that there is no way they can postpone the elections. And then they went ahead and actually held their own elections, which were concluded a month ago. So that was one major, I think, bone of contention, that you had a region basically breaking away from the central electoral arrangement, and conducting its own election. That was seen as a huge challenge to the Prime Minister. But then there were other, I think, factors, some of them historical. The TPLF basically retreated back to Tigray, and it was part of the coalition, the EPRDF, and exercised a lot of power during Meles' time. Now, once Abiy came to power, he began dismantling some of the power structures which gave the TPLF, that leverage. TPLF officers were removed from major parastatals of the state. A major military-industrial complex where the TPLF had a lot of power was dismantled. So there was, I think, a deliberate effort by Prime Minister Abiy to basically undermine the TPLF. But
was it undermining the TPLF, or was it trying to bring about equity? Because you could argue that one of the things that even elevated him to power is because there was a lot of disgruntlement among the population that the Tigray had dominated positions of leadership for a long time.
That's one way of looking at it. But there was undeniably a very deep purge of the TPLF. But then that was not enough. I think the TPLF was a very strong party. The region was very influential. And all the, I think, maneuvers by Prime Minister Abiy in the last 2 years have been geared towards, I think, dismantling the TPLF and Tigray, to weaken Tigray. There should be no, I think, doubt that this is a Prime Minister who has been plotting for many years to bring down the TPLF and also to destroy, to basically weaken Tigray. And he has found a very powerful ally in the president of Eritrea, Isaias Afewerki. Isaias Afewerki has a lot of unfinished business with Tigray. Tigray was a front line during the border conflict, and that was actually one of the reasons why the Prime Minister has been very cozy with Afewerki. They have a common interest in basically undermining TPLF power, but also weakening Tigray region. So these are all the combination of factors, I think, that have created the current crisis.
With this purge on the TPLF and the weakening of the Tigray in the federal government, can you say that there's been any specific beneficiary, like any other region that then you can say has benefited from this weakening of the Tigray?
Well, I think there were, in the initial months, there was a perception that this was just a change of one ethnic hegemony for another. That was the perception that was created in the country, but that is not true. I think Prime Minister Abiy has tried to make the Ethiopian state much more inclusive. He has brought in more women. He's also, I think, brought in other historically marginalized communities into government, like Somalis, the Gurage, many other ethnicities have been brought into government. So to some extent, there was that, I think, attempt to project the current Ethiopia and Abiy as a kind of a much more inclusive government. Where the problem, I think, lies is the fact that beyond these gestures in cabinet, that inclusiveness was not reflected in the regions and in many other parts of Ethiopia. And we saw how the Prime Minister basically went after, monopolized power in the Oromia region, locked up all the Oromo leaders, cracked down very heavily against the Oromo rebels. And that was seen as basically counterproductive, because this was a Prime Minister who essentially was, elevated to power largely on the back of the Oromo protest movement. And for him to go and crack down heavily against that same movement, I think was viewed as hugely disappointing to the Oromo. And that explains why there is this huge unrest in Oromia. So I think the legacy of Prime Minister Abiy in terms of inclusivity is a mixed one.
Rashid, then I've got to ask you, if you talk about this and his legacy, the very thing that is, according to what you're saying, the very thing that is bringing about this crisis is the very thing that he was recognized by the world when he was given the Nobel Peace Prize, because of the steps that he had made, yes, with his brother from Eritrea in the person of the president. This was the premise upon which he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And here we are, on the other hand, saying that his very action is what has brought about this dissension that we see. So was then this awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize worthy, from your point of view?
I think it is becoming very clear, and it's not just me saying it, but many people are now beginning to recognize that that award by the Nobel Prize was very premature. I think there was such promise in Abiy in the first few months in office. He was a leader who came very quickly, reached out to Eritrea, began building, a relationship with Eritrea, talked about a peace settlement. I think the world was disarmed by that very energetic, movement by Abiy. But let's admit it, the Nobel Prize was rewarding, I think, potential, and was not rewarding something
Action.
that was already there, action. So over time, I think it became clear that Abiy wasn't making any headway. He was stuck where he was. There is no peace. There is no formal peace settlement with Eritrea. And in hindsight, actually, it will appear that the strategic relationship between Abiy and Afewerki was largely about how to contain Tigray and not how to make peace between their two nations.
Let's take a break and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home, who've been with us since 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're having a conversation with Horn of Africa analyst Rashid Abdi, dissecting what's happening, what's unfolding in Ethiopia. There has been some major conflict between the federal government and the regional government of Tigray, where the federal government had accused the regional government of sponsoring attacks on a federal military camp. And then there was serious dropping of the hammer on that region. Many people have fled. Amnesty International says that many have been killed in that conflict so far. We know that there are many who have crossed over from Ethiopia into Sudan seeking refuge. Let's continue that conversation. If you'd like to join the conversation on Spice FM, it's 94.4 in Nairobi, and Mombasa is 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. See you again on Monday, KTN Home, and thank you very much for tuning in.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
So we continue the conversation for the next about 7 minutes with Rashid Abdi. Rashid, with all this that's happening, would you say that the rest of the country is watching what's happening in Tigray and feeling support or expressing support for Tigray, or do they express support for the president, or are the other regions just sitting back and watching and saying, not my monkey, not my forest?
There's no, I think, survey that has been done to find out, what public opinion thinks. And the fact that the government has imposed a massive media clampdown on Tigray basically means that we don't know what is happening. But all across the country, journalists are being locked up every day. No one can actually quote any TPLF official. No one can write anything about the conflict without actually going through the military censors. And all this, I think, is a clear indication that there is a deliberate attempt by the state to basically popularize its own narrative. But I think if you just look at Twitter, social media, you can clearly see that there's huge, I think, anger at this conflict. Many people are very unhappy with war and conflict and say that the Prime Minister should have exhausted dialogue and should have, given an opportunity to mediation. I think I find similar sentiment also internationally. Also regionally, there is a lot of, I think, anxiety about where this war is headed. So my thinking is that, on the whole, public opinion, I think, is heavily on the side of let's stop this war and let's engage.
Given that, as you say correctly, even within the Oromian nation, there doesn't seem to be cohesion. I now want you to be speculative here. How well do you think the Prime Minister, one Mr. Abiy Ahmed, is actually going to fare with running this country?
I think part of also this crisis we see is indication of a Prime Minister desperate for regime survival, a Prime Minister who has been severely weakened, who is badly dented, whose credibility has actually suffered so much. And if he can create, I think, an emergency situation in which he can prolong his rule and then somehow find a way to maneuver himself through an election, so regime survival calculations are part of this crisis. They are not extraneous to it. They are part of this crisis. The Prime Minister, I think, has lost considerable public support, and this conflict gives him, I think, the kind of lifeline he needs to cling on, because he mobilizes a certain constituency within Ethiopia that rallies around the flag, and so, every beleaguered leader, creates conflict abroad. That is what history shows us, and I think this isn't any different. This is a Prime Minister who actually desperately needed this conflict in order to shore up his support base.
There's also some stability that is begged because Ethiopia currently is the seat of the African Union. And when you look at all of this, you say that, well, you hope that at the seat there would be some kind of peace and stability. What do you think this says, not just for regional politics and governance, but continent-wide?
Absolutely. I think this is the major crisis. Ethiopia is an anchor state in the Horn. If Ethiopia collapses, the entire Horn region collapses. There's no doubt about it. It is the home of the African Union. It is, the region's diplomatic and military power. And I think the crisis there clearly is a crisis for the entire Horn. And this explains why I think both the region and externally, every pressure must be maintained to make sure that this crisis is halted.
Have you seen any attempts internationally or regionally to try and mediate this conflict?
Sorry, repeat that question. I got a bit lost.
Sorry, have there been attempts that you've seen regionally and also internationally to mediate this conflict?
I think we are beginning to see pressure building up. I think one critical factor is that the Prime Minister launched this attack in the midst of the U.S. elections, and that is deliberate. It's not coincidental, because the U.S. is the only single power with leverage to actually influence Ethiopia. It is the only country with which the U.S. has the closest security and strategic partnership, and that explains why the Prime Minister chose this perfect timing. It will take almost 10 weeks for the Biden administration to come into office. And I think that gives the Prime Minister that window of 10 weeks to wrap up this conflict. Because I'm sure once the Democrats come into power, they will exert a lot of pressure to stop that conflict.
Ahmed, Rashid Abdi, thank you very much for speaking to us today. And it's always a pleasure having you and giving your insights on things that are happening around Africa, especially at the Horn of Africa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Have a good one. So the conversations continue, and what we are doing is, we've just been discussing Ethiopia, seeing what's happening there. It's important that we continue monitoring what's happening in that region. It's important that we continue seeing and checking out what's happening in that region because, as you're saying, if that conflict escalates, this is an anchor diplomatically and militarily for the region. The number of just the soldiers that they have, it's a million-strong military. If that country gets into those kind of serious internal conflicts, then the entire region catches the flu. And this is something we cannot have. Remember, we're giving away decoders this morning, and this is from DSTV and GoTV. We had the Multichoice MD with us this morning, and we asked the questions. Give us one of the new channels that have recently been launched on DSTV, and you get a DSTV decoder. You stand a chance of getting a DSTV decoder. There's a show on Maisha Magic East on GoTV called Pete. This show has a character called Jasiri. What is Jasiri's real name? What is Jasiri's real name? Answer that correctly on our social media handles and you stand a chance of winning a GoTV decoder. Proper full installation decoder plus dish. Social media producer Brian Amulioto has been busy looking at all the responses. We're going to be awarding 2 winners in the next hour. Also, let's talk business. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM.
Okay, so still
Nairobi.
some crazy traffic on Thika Road outbound and inbound today. It's an absolute mess. And there have been a couple of accidents on just Thika Road itself. So if you're headed in that direction or coming into the CBD from that direction as well, you need to be extremely careful. Donholm also spilling it out this morning. It's not clear. You can use the back route though on Allsops out then towards Thika Road, but you're still going to get stuck along the way. And we're looking at Outer Ring giving us some problems as well. Getting into the CBD from Uhuru Highway through then to the CBD and then out towards Westlands, that also is the bumper to bumper situation. Then plus Mombasa Road, where the construction is in high gear, and that means that traffic also has slowed down considerably slow. So it's Friday morning, outbound also, going towards Limuru, from Kikuyu out towards Limuru. Basically, it's traffic. So it's not good news, but it will not last the whole day, at least we hope. All right, let us know where you might be stuck. Let us know what you do see, and let's see how we can help out. Text us on 40127 or tweet us, Spice FMKE.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. CT Muga, we did not do the proverb in the last hour, so let's do twice this hour.
Well, if you are asking me to do it twice this hour, you're more or less asking me to give you a second proverb.
Same proverb twice.
Okay. If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents.
That's one.
One.
Twice.
If you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents. Two.
Thank you very much. Twice. We got the proverb in the next hour, in this hour. Well, let's talk about business. We've been telling you about how you can get yourself hooked up with the Google platform and all these tools that they have that can help you get your business greater visibility online. We've been talking about if you'd like to get first of all, just get a simple business profile on Google. So somebody comes and searches for either your business name or some keywords that reflect that are in your business category. Then you appear up there in the search results. And then you'll be able to you'll have provided details, for example, your telephone contacts or your location, the location of your business, or maybe you have a website that you've already created and you can link the website. So someone then clicks on that and comes to your website and all this. And you can even have reviews of your previous customers on what they feel like. This is called Google My Business. To get yourself into Google My Business, Google has partnered with a company called Africa 118. And you just go to google.africa118.co.ke. That's google.africa118.co.ke. You'll find a form. You can just press a button, request for callback, or you can press a button and call them, or you can just fill out a form and then they'll call you back and help you set up within 24 hours, absolutely free of charge. Get your business profile up and running. and give you some basic training on then how you can take advantage of this. On the other, on top of that, there are two other platforms or tools that the Google have, and this is the Market Hub, and the other one is the Market Finder. That's a marketing kit, and the Market Finder. Market Finder helps you to see where else your goods and services are being sought for globally, and they help you to link with those markets. The marketing kit gives you some tools that you can use to communicate better with your potential clients. That and more. G.co/Grow Africa. That's G.co/Grow Africa. We've been having these conversations for the past couple of days with a Google expert, Rosemary Momanyo-Pio, who is so gracious and kind that she speaks to us every morning at 9 a.m. and she's here with us again today. Rosemary is the SME lead for East Africa. Hello, Rosemary.
Good morning, Eric. How are you? This happy Friday, or is it rainy Friday?
Happy? Is it raining? No.
Well, it's been raining. It's raining here.
Okay, where exactly is it raining?
Off Limuru Road.
Okay. We've established that when you say it's raining, you have to be specific. You can't say it's raining in Nairobi, because where we are at on Mombasa Road, there is no rain.
It's drizzling on Mombasa Road. Don't mind them, Rosemary.
It's drizzling.
Yes.
Thank you, Drew.
Okay. On which section of Mombasa Road?
I leave that thing.
You don't do exactly facing the wall, and how she can see this drizzle, I actually don't understand.
People should be afraid of me if I can tell you there's rain.
All right.
Scary stuff. It's Friday the 13th. Rosemary.
It is.
What does that mean?
It means nothing. Just another day with a date.
Okay. Let's talk business.
Absolutely.
So you told us about the Market Finder yesterday and how to take advantage of this. You've also been telling us about the marketing kit and how to take advantage of this. What do you want to tell us? What do you want to tell us about today?
So today I want to spend a little bit more time going deeper into the Market Finder. I think you recall yesterday we spent some time, and just to remind the audience who are not able to join in, as you said before, you go to this portal by g.co/Grow Africa. You click on the link that says Get Customers, and then you go and scroll down and look for the second tab or tool that's called Market Finder. Once you select Market Finder, you will be required to enter in your business site or your website, and the tool will then go through and scroll through your website and identify what the key things that you're selling, and then propose to you various categories. And then once you select the categories, you can always go back and refine them, add more, delete some. And then the next step you do is then you'd confirm the categories. And what you see now is the top 3 markets that, based on your products that you're selling, that the tool believes you can be able to have a bigger audience. So from this example, we used Wangare's website, New Start Organics. We put in her URL, we picked her categories of products, and it proposed to her 3 markets: United States, United Kingdom, and Germany. And if I just high level scroll over the country, you'll see at a very high level the snapshot. So from the US, from the kind of category that she's in, there are roughly 39 million monthly searches across her categories, which is quite huge. You also see the recommended, what they call the household net disposable income, for those who can be eligible to buy her products. And then you also see the ease of doing business rank for that particular country. As you can see here, it's number 6. Then if I just go to the other example is UK, there are roughly 21 million monthly searches of the products that she's selling. It's roughly $32,000. Disposable household income. Ease of doing business is 8. And the third market it proposed to her was Germany, where there are roughly 15 million monthly searches of her category. They roughly average about $39,000 US disposable income, and number 22 in terms of ease of doing business. So it's a high level snapshot that you can then be able to understand her top 3 markets. And then what happens then, I would then be required to put in a name just to update my profile. I will be required to do a few steps just to either receive updates or not. I can choose not to. And then I can sign up and then be able to get an in-depth report based on my product and based on the various markets. So I'll just talk through what you're seeing here. If I was to select, for example, the United States, so I wanted to pick at least 3 markets to explore and get in-depth insights that would help me make the right opportunity. So I want to just select the US, I'd select UK, and I'll select Germany. But you can also see it also proposed Japan, France, Australia, Canada, Italy, as in that order. But I only pick the top 3 for right now, just to understand what next to do. And I go to the next step by clicking confirm on the top right corner. And then what it does a little bit of an overview on those top 3 markets. And you could see it gives me various options here. The dashboard, it helps me understand just at the very high level who are the 3 markets. If I want to explore those 3 markets, the tool will then tell me a little bit more depth, which is important for me to understand, of the 3 which should be my top markets. If I want to plan my operations, it tells me things to your point to ask earlier on, Eric, things like what are the tax legal requirements, what are the logistic requirements,
Right.
how can I localize my products, what are the global payment solutions. If I want to market my business now into those 3 markets, it tells me basically what is an overview, how much should I be spending, what are the various, I think City asked me this yesterday, how then do I market and create awareness? So it proposes to do things like search advertising, display advertising, or video. So you're able to then decide of those multiple platforms, how then do I create awareness? But let's go back to explore the markets right now to understand what more it's offering to me, right? So in this case, you'll see a few interesting insights here. It compares my current market, which is Kenya,
Yep.
which is currently, as you can see currently, there are roughly 650,000 monthly searchers, which is, it pales compared to what they are in the US, UK, and Germany of the product that Wangari is selling. You can see we are just a minuscule opportunity for her. If she wants to really grow, US is going to be her top market to export to.
But
then it talk. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I think maybe you'll respond to that as you continue. Just go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Then the next thing, it talks about the disposable income of the households, which we already saw earlier on. If I go into the country profiles, it tells me, for example, in the US, the various languages spoken, UK, Germany. It talks about the various currencies in each of the 3 markets. And then it talks about also the corruption index, right, of those 3 markets. So as you can imagine, you want to go to markets where there's less or as low corruption as possible. So that we pull this data from partners. So in this case, we got this data from transparency.org, which ranks countries on corruption index. So then you now know that Kenya is ranked number 27, US is number 71. The higher you are to 100, the better it is for you. You're less corrupt.
Okay.
It gives you the median age in those countries. It gives you the population breakdown by age group of those countries. And then if I was to go into economic profile, it talks about the GDP in all of the 3 countries. So you see, it's just giving me data that I didn't know about US, UK, and Germany that will help me then decide, am I comfortable at going to those markets? How is the economic climate, corruption index, disposable income? So all the insights that will help me then decide which market then do I want to move into. Moving on, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Okay. The other interesting fact here is the online profile. It tells me in those countries what is the overall population or people who are currently online. So it talks about 17% in Kenya, but in the US it's 87%, UK 94%. And Germany 89%. So you're able then to see, oh my goodness, if I want to export things online, are people online in those markets and what percentage of them are online? And we get this from the ITU website. Then it talks about the various platforms that people are using to come online, whether it's Android or iOS. So it compares your market vis-a-vis the other top 3 countries. And then I'll just pause here lastly on purchase behavior. I think we discussed this on one of our sessions, the consumer journey. It takes you through how a product's being bought in that market. Do people spend time researching and what percent of them actually research? So you can see here, it's quite high in the US, UK, and Germany as well. You can see internet usage purchase stages as well. And then also you're able to see their weekly online purchase breakdown by device. What do they use to buy? Do they use computers or smartphones or tablets? You're able then to determine if you're to create your first ad campaign, make sure it's available and can be viewable on smartphones, on tablets, because your market that you're going to go into are using those products to be able to research products online. So I'll pause here just to take your questions.
Something, it may be a little way out, but the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce has a platform or has facilities that help business people connect with other business people. Why do I bring this into the discussion? It's one thing to have an idea of the data pertaining to a particular place. It's even one thing to know that those businesses exist. But there is this additional push of someone who already has contact or has people who have contact, maybe because of similar organizations in that country. Does Google consider partnering with people like Kenya National Chamber of Commerce when it comes to some of these things?
Or the export promotion agency?
Yes.
Yes. In fact, what we do is we try and look for partners in each country to help us understand their landscape from a point of doing business, trade opportunities, trade organizations. That way, if I'm in the US and I want to export my products from the US to Kenya, I'll now know what is the ease of doing business in Kenya, who are the trade associations. So yes, we do partner with Chamber of Commerce, and very soon we'll begin to funnel in some of their data into these types of tools.
Okay, so now just looking at this markets that you talked about, markets outside of Kenya, for anybody whose business starts here, are you essentially saying that there is the potential opportunity for a business that started here, using your business profile, you can actually then go out? Really, there is no cap on what you can do and how you can sell your product.
Correct.
Does the support then extend outside of where your business is domiciled?
Correct, it does. So, for example, if you want to know, let's just say I'm Wangari, and I said, you know what, of these three markets, I want to export my products to the United States, right? Mm-hmm. So what she would then do is fine. She wants to market her business now outside of Kenya. She would define what she wants to, what products she wants to sell, and how she wants to create for her self-awareness. Because she's not said, fine, I've done the research. I now know the US is my top market. I want to now, of course, pick a logistics partner. She'll use this tool to help her decide who to partner with on logistics. And then she'll come and say, fine, now let me market my business. She can then decide, I want to go and do search advertising or display advertising or video advertising. And then we will hold her hand and take her through how to build her first campaign that would then help her to market her products outside of Kenya, then now into the US.
Okay.
But there's the other risk of, at the very beginning of this research journey, if you haven't put in the actual proper keywords that define your business, you may receive results that are not necessarily linked to your kind of business. For example, in the case of Wangari, if she just went and put in and said beauty products and she did not go into organic or natural or African, then she may look at and see that there's a huge opportunity in America. But that opportunity is not necessarily for the kind of specific product that she makes.
Good point. So we have two ways to address that point. So number one is when she puts in her website on the first page, what happens is this tool will then go and review what content she has on her website, and then pick the keywords and say, oh, she's selling organic soap, or she's selling liquid soap, or she's selling beauty products, right? So to propose to her 3 categories. Before she goes to the next step, she can say, fine, I agree with that selection, or I want to add even 2 more or remove 1. So before even she goes to the next step of confirming her selection, she'll have a chance to be able to review what has been proposed by the tool, edit it. So there's a way that we're able to at least address the piece around, she's at least making sure that she's picking the right category of products, and she'll be able to always go back and course correct if she made a mistake. So it's not a final.
Sounds like a very lovely tool here, this one, Market Finder. It's also free.
It's also free. Also free.
Free for life, or is this, free introductory?
Free for life. Free for life.
It's a trial period of 30 days.
Rosemary, I am still going to ask this question, though I know you've answered it in the past. The only difference in the question is I'm going to speak slower than I normally speak.
Wow, okay.
At what point does Google expect to benefit from this largesse, this very generous and wonderful offer that it is making?
Good question, CT. So remember, I walked you through the research.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when she wants to create awareness for herself, she's going to want to create some advertising platforms, products for herself. So at that point, if she wants to then go ahead and start booking her first ad campaign, she can use our product and our platform. So search is our product, YouTube is our product, and she can create assets that can then be used on search and on YouTube and on display to create awareness. That's not when now we can start making revenue as Google. The last step.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that clear?
Yes, but I will ask the same question again next week. This time I'll speak a little faster.
Thank you very much. And if anybody would like to, get advantage of or take advantage of this particular tools by Google, just go to g.co/Grow Africa. That's g.co/Grow Africa. See all these tools. You'll go into Market Finder. You can go into Marketing Kit. And also there is Google My Business. Get yourself online. Get your business online. Rosemary, thank you very much for speaking to us this week. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Happy Friday.
Thank
and have a good weekend.
You
too.
too.
See you again. Talk to you again next week.
Talk next week.
20 minutes after 9, time for us to take a break. See whether it's raining now on Mombasa Road or whether it stopped raining in the area around Parklands and Westlands. And then we continue the conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Tell the DJ turn it up, let the DJ bring it back. Tell him that you like that.
Yeah. Rude boy, I'm a Rudy. See my fans wanna shangilia.
It's that time again where we bring you the best of music and entertainment. The 6th edition of the Pulse Music Video Awards 2020 is here. Owning the virtual space in Kenyan music is the theme for this year, so get those nominations coming through and we will bring the acts to you. Simply log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMVA and submit your favorite songs starting 3rd November to 17th November 2020, and we'll do the rest. This year, we are bringing the entertainment back to life. Pulse Music Video Awards 2020, the only way to get alive.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic
Still a
ballads.
drizzle in some parts of Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 16 today, and the rain likely to continue through into the weekend. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 19, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly cloudy also in Nyeri at 23, the high and lows of 14. Eldoret will be mostly sunny today. It's currently at 16, good highs of 22 and lows of 13. Light rains in Kisumu, also into the weekend, highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's partly sunny in Kakamega at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 15. It's also raining in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Whereas it's sunny in Malindi, highs of 25 and lows of 17. Light rain in Kampala, highs of 25 and lows of 18, where in Dar es Salaam continues to rain with highs of 30 and lows of 25 today. Johannesburg is sunny at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 15. In Lagos, light rain showers, highs of 31 and lows of 25. In Kinshasa, light rain at 24 with highs of 31. Looking into Beijing now, going east, highs of 16 and lows of 3 today. Sunny conditions throughout as they get into evening. And it's clear in Paris at 11 with highs of 14 and lows of 10. Mostly cloudy conditions in London with highs of 13 and lows of 10. And finally, it's Friday morning in New York, highs of 11 and lows of 7.
Spice up your life.
24 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the room, listen every morning, CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif. So let's talk about State of the Nation. Yesterday we promised to look and review what the President will have told the nation through the joint sitting of Parliament yesterday when he delivered the State of the Nation address. It's what's been covered majorly on all the papers this morning. The Nation goes with what he said, "I've seen our future," the head of state defending his legacy as he lists his achievements, likening himself to the biblical Moses who saw the promised land. A bullish President Kenyatta yesterday sent Kenyans a message of hope and recovery in the midst of a disruptive health pandemic that has wiped out businesses and livelihoods. He called for resilience and a fighting spirit in a speech that avoided key issues facing the country. They had to end with that. A speech that avoided key issues facing the country. Uhuru pushes for consensus. He tones down political rhetoric with major achievements of his government, dishing out more goodies to new businesses, saying that any new business that, I think he said that this started from March this year. Any new business that is registered in Nairobi enjoys some holiday in terms of paying business permits. And this is now being expanded to the country. Business permit for the first couple of months.
No.
Years. How many years?
It's 2 years.
Yes, that's 24 months. And also does not do what? So that is the goodie that he was talking about. In terms of education, he says schools, ministry should tell us how schools are resuming classes in January. In terms of the economy, he says, that's one we're talking about. Entrepreneurs not paying for single business permits or taxes that's income tax in the first 2 years. The Big Four agenda, he says, we have laid a foundation. This is going to propel us to prosperity, and this is it. What did you make of the president's speech?
Well, we started this day, when we started yesterday, and we said, I can see a speech where there would be hope given. Because you're coming out of a place where, not even coming out, you're currently resident in a place where there seems to be a lot of turmoil about economically, health-wise, just livelihoods, education. Things just seem to be in a shambles. So I didn't expect less than this, hope parade that everybody was then being asked to jump on. I saw that it was necessary to do because you need to, at some point, bridle the negative emotions that your people are feeling. However, I would have loved to see that hope then peppered with tangible things then that were going to be done as a result of the same. I was quite disappointed, especially with the Big Four agenda, where suddenly it is, I never said we were going to finish. Basically, what we are saying is that we are putting the foundation.
When you're building a house, get it to rento.
At least.
It's called rento, whatever.
And then you tell us
that point
whereby people are waiting for that one drop that's going to fall. You basically tell them, and even those things that we thought were going to.
Foundation.
It's just the beginning, guys. Yes. So let the person who's coming after me essentially carry on with that.
You're aware you and I differ on this perspective here.
That it's okay. But I mean, it's just I felt that even if that was, when people are waiting, lapping up.
That the president did not give tangible.
Oh, no, I concur with her sentiments and her feelings. It's just the perspective that I differ with.
What's your perspective?
My perspective, as I mentioned earlier on when we began this show, was this. See, here we have a situation where if you were to look at our politics as we normally do, we are saying the president and his deputy made many, many promises. And they were firm promises. Ensconced in concrete, meaning this one is immovable, unshakable. Now, it's becoming a subject of debate because it's not only become shakeable, it's also movable. All right? Now, I am saying I like the movement because then the president has stopped being President Uhuru Kenyatta. He has become citizen Uhuru Kenyatta. Meaning, wananchi watukufu, my fellow citizens, here is where we are. And the truth of the matter is this. You give a perfect example. Piece of land here, we're going to build, saying, no, let's pause. We've realized that, maybe I've taken a little literally liberty here, that we can only fence it. The foundation, why don't we consider that once we've fenced it, at least we now know we have the land.
We've secured our land.
Yes, and this country isn't going to end with my presidency.
We have our beacons.
You
can be coming every weekend, kula nyama here.
And look at our beacons, of our land. Yes, and determine where we want the grass to grow a little more, perhaps, Progress. At least we have the land and we fenced it. Now, what we've done is we made it easier for the next person who comes in to now build that house we mentioned to you. And if he doesn't build it, we've given him the land and we've actually fenced it.
We've made some movement and some progress.
No, it's actually a lot of movement. I actually think, in all honesty...
How is that positive, City? Because you're saying that what this has done is that it has transformed the president into a president now who's speaking our language.
He's telling us
how is that
what we know.
Us? We've paid him to deliver. We've not paid him to wear our uniform.
Part of delivery involves telling you. So, look, this one he didn't say. All right? But what one can intuit from this is, look, we made some really lofty promises, okay? It's abundantly clear with the passage of time that this may not really be possible, meaning it won't happen, okay? So, let me tell you what will happen, okay? Let's go back to that plot again. Let's go back to the fence, and let's go back to... I would have hoped, perhaps, that that would have been peppered with, okay, this right now was considered a priority because it was a legacy project, but it can't be a priority now given what we have.
That's my point. You don't just leave it and say, essentially, now that you're all hanging on waiting for something, actually, we're not doing it. Bye.
Okay. Well, we didn't say we were going to do it.
Well, we didn't say we're going to do it. In fact, what you've actually told people is that we actually didn't say we were going to finish it. There's an element there of misrepresentation that I'm not really
I was misquoted by the media.
That I'm not really comfortable with.
No.
The last 3 years, every time he has had an opportunity to speak to people, the Big Four agenda was never missing from what he spoke about.
True.
And it wasn't about 20 years, 10 years.
No, we are going to finish.
Yes.
We are going to deliver.
Yes.
Now, in the absence of this delivery, can you at least tell people that, okay, we were not able to do it because of 1, 2, 3, as opposed to telling people that we never said we were going to finish, as opposed to telling people...
Did he really say that?
As opposed to saying...
That's what?
That they never said they were going to finish it.
That's what he said.
No, you need to read that. That one, no.
Let me read page 4
and
of
tell me
the
which
Standard.
newspaper you're reading it from.
Page 4 of the Standard, which is quoting the president verbatim from his speech. All right, he says, even as we mooted the 4 intentions, we recognized then, as we still recognize now, that they would not be completed in a single term of office. We give our solemn vow by the end of 2022 would have laid an unshakable foundation for the realization of this vision, which is a shared aspiration for millions of Kenyans.
And before that, it was that universal health would be made available to all Kenyans. Number 2, it was that you would have completed a certain amount of houses by a certain date. It was in the thousands. And that...
hundreds of thousands.
It was in the... of units, right?
Yeah.
Across the country.
Per year.
It was that manufacturing would have been the bedrock upon which the economy of Kenya then would be revived. These are things that were said. And then yesterday, what is being said is something totally different.
Agriculture would be on our path right now to food security.
So what you're actually saying is that the speechwriter has put a spin.
That's it. He just played with us.
No.
Look.
Nope.
Okay, no why.
No, continue read. I'm just saying no because I've started saying no. You
So I just want to continue.
Just read, please.
You see, that's when he says that as we mooted it then, I mean, we recognized then and we still recognize now that it would not be completed in a single term of office, but we are giving a solemn vow that by the end of 2022, we'd have laid an unshakable foundation. For us to talk about laying an unshakable foundation in 2 years, in 1.5 years, basically, what the president is basically saying is that we already have bought the land, we have fenced, we have slashed the grass, we have moved the rocks, we have brought the excavators, we've already started digging.
And so that there's clarity on the matter, it is not a roar. Okay?
It is not a roar.
Thank God.
Eric.
It is moving towards that place where we're talking about an unshakable foundation. What you'd have expected is that in these 5 years, we're not just putting up a foundation. We've at least brought in the house up 2 courses.
Eric, you know.
Coffee.
Biri.
Kujenga nyumba. You can't just tell us that you know what you're going to do.
We're speaking Kenyan.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Building a house, man.
Eric, the position I started off with, I still hold on to for this reason. It isn't every day the president of a country says this sort of thing. This is an African president of an African country called Kenya. You want him to say, Jamani nisameheni, I'm really very sorry.
Yes.
He is already apologizing, and
he is telling us that we are the ones.
You didn't get him right.
Gaslighting.
You're the ones who didn't get him right.
That we are the ones that didn't get him right.
Actually,
we recognized even then. And even now.
We knew a while ago that it was not going to happen. You guys are the ones didn't get me.
If that is your interpretation,
this is the president gaslighting us.
There we agree because we got it. He just didn't get that we got it. Okay? But I am getting him. I actually do. In all honesty.
It's like the man who does something wrong to his wife.
Oh,
and instead of you to just come and say, I'm sorry, you go and buy flowers. And you drop them there for her. In fact, in this case, you didn't even buy flowers. You bought some piece of meat and put it on the table. So she should understand that I'm saying sorry.
Meaning, when you're trying to say sorry, you shouldn't have peace offerings.
But you didn't say anything else. That's my you didn't actually say the thing that they were looking for you to say.
She doesn't want the kilo of... She wants kilo of meat and sorry.
No.
You just bring it and leave it there.
She
And then you say, now this is what is happening. In this case, from that meat, deduce what I'm saying.
Eric, you're understating.
In this particular
deduce
case,
what I'm saying
the president
from
has
that
not even given us a kilo of meat. He's just come home and said, well, I said I'm going to bring meat. I didn't say when.
So now you're still annoyed. Let's go and sleep, Joe. That's basically what has happened here.
I knew I don't have money.
I knew.
And I still know I don't have money.
So you should deduce what I'm saying from this.
I'll bring meat.
You should deduce what I'm saying from this.
Actually,
meanwhile, hope is what was waited for. In the morning yesterday, Kenyans were hopeful. When the man went out in the morning, hopeful that when he will come back, there's something that he's going to bring upon which you will be able to derive some kind of sustenance.
Look,
and you come
it
with a
isn't
whisper.
as though the projects were not started. For heaven's sake, they have been started. All right? We even have a case. Ngara. Okay? Such a structure has been put up. There's
there's land.
Not only land, there's a building.
There's a fence.
There's even a building.
Okay.
There's just the usual 1 or 2, 3 things that which Kenyans speak of. I don't know why it's 1 or 2, 3 things. Why don't we just say a myriad of things? Okay, but Kenyan, myself, 1 or 2, 3 things that have probably prevented this thing from moving forward at the pace that was intended. But it doesn't mean it isn't moving. It is. It is moving.
Okay.
You have Pangani Estate, it's moving. You have Jivanji Bachelors, it is moving. You have other projects at the coast, moving. We talked to Mheshimiwa Shabal here of the project of Buxton. It's part of this whole scheme. So we cannot say things are not moving. It's not ring fencing. This thing has gone beyond ring fencing.
Right.
Like the Buxton project would have started by now. The problem is it's gone to court. The tenants took the matter to court. Now, while matters are in court, you can't build.
Share your story. You pause.
Yes.
Until the matter is determined.
So, when the president says what he's saying, in my view, he is just making it clear. Again, back to speechwriter.
So, let's look at what even the State House has talked about, the Big Four agenda highlights, right? Where do you want to start? You talked about housing. Big Four agenda on housing. Affordable housing. This is what they say that they've done. Successful delivery of 1,370 affordable housing units through test case project of Park Road, completed ahead of schedule and within budget. Okay. Incorporation and capitalization of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation, land banking initiatives, digitization of titling process, enhancing the protection of property owners, completion of the National Geospatial Mapping exercise, currently at 75%.
See?
So this is now laying the firm and unshakable, unbreakable foundation. Okay? Now, is this what they had said that they were going to do by the end of 2020? And this is why I'm telling you this is gaslighting, because intentionally, the Big Four agenda did not have an implementation matrix. And I'm saying intentionally because it's clear that it was intentional. When this matter went to budget to the National Assembly this year, with the CS for the National Treasury presenting his budget policy statement this year, It was discussed by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. It was discussed in Parliament this year. And the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee questioned why we keep talking about the Big Four agenda year on year. It comes to Parliament, they ask, what are we gauging you on? Give us an implementation matrix. Tell us, with this financial year, this is what we hope to do. This is where we shall be. They don't give us. They don't do that. Now they're just telling us what they've done. It's like saying, you know what, I'm going to go to Mombasa, you know, and I'm not saying by when I'm going to go to Mombasa. Or how. So if you find me today in the Standard Group Center and I live in Westlands, but you see, I'm on my way to Mombasa. The truth of the matter is I'm working here. I'm going back. From here, I'm going to go elsewhere.
You are aware that this is...
I'm on my way to Mombasa.
You are aware that what I'm hearing you say is your understanding of this situation, not as it really is.
What is this? How is it?
Well, why don't I join you and give you my understanding?
Give me yours.
Okay. My understanding is this. Everything you have said has credence to it. However, broad strokes, this is the plan we have. We would like to do this. Okay? It starts that way. Now, what we've seen, Park Road, Ngara, that is now details of what is happening.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now, I cannot make a statement on these matters without bringing in COVID, because when these things were planned, there was no COVID. And COVID has proven to be something else. Okay? When I was young, there was a word we encountered, and it was the word conductor. So one of my siblings thought they would be clever and asked, so what's the meaning of a conductor? And they said, a conductor is something which conducts something else. Now, why do I bring in, I'm not being facetious here. This isn't even a chicken and egg situation. The reality of any government project, be it roads, be it what, if it's a long-term project, if you have such an ambitious project that you want to house the numbers of hundreds of thousands of people or even take it to the millions, the truth of the matter is that to do that to full completion, it cannot take even a one-term president.
Of course it cannot take even a one-term president. You see, Vision 2030 is very clear. It's Vision 2030. From when? From, was it 2007? It had several medium-term and then the long term.
Yes.
Every 5 years, there's a review. Within the next 5 years, this is what we want to do, and this is where we hope to be. Within the next 5 years, this is what we want to do, this is what where we want to be. Okay? This is Vision 2030. It's very clear. You can actually go to the Vision 2030 Secretariat and see from the very beginning this is what they wanted to do, the challenges that they've gone through, where they have failed, where they have the successes they've made. On the issue of the Big Four agenda, the Big Four agenda and the communication for the Big Four agenda was these are going to be my legacy projects. We're going to be somewhere by the time I finish. We can say we're somewhere because we have 1,200 and odd houses in Nairobi under the affordable housing scheme. We can also say we are somewhere because we have, look at what they're talking about, the food security pillar. Completion of the Bachuma quarantine facility and transfer of the Kenya Meat Commission to the Ministry of Defense is what we are calling one of the achievements.
It's an achievement.
In food security. Another achievement in the food security is opening of the new international markets for Kenya's agricultural products in China and the Far East. That's an achievement for our own food security. Number 3, food security is completion of fresh food produce markets and cold storage facilities across the country to protect essential value chain and provide improved access to local blah, 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 blah.
Food security.
Number 4, introduction of the legal framework of warehouse receipting system and the soon-to-be operationalized Kenya Commodities Exchange. And then reform of the NCPB and the Strategic Food Reserve, blah, 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 blah. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. This is what we are saying. This is how far we've gone towards our journey to food security. When shall we be food secure if this is
if the foundations are what are still being set today?
If this is the pace at which we are moving, when shall we be secure? I can tell you, in terms of housing, the housing, I can see, yes. There is a grader on the ground. There is construction workers have been brought in. There is Mawe has been Mwagwad. There is Kokoto has been brought. I can see a foundation forming. Food security, just reading those 5, I cannot see any foundation, in my opinion. When it comes to, the other one was what?
Universal
health coverage. 407 doctors recruited nationwide between April and October 2020. That was
because of COVID.
Okay, 27,000 new community health workers onboarded between March and October 20. So we're just looking at what can we, everything. What has happened this year? There's a doctor. That is UHC. What has happened? We gave we bought some hospital
PPEs.
beds. That is UHC. What has happened? We've moved beds from Nani's hospital in Henny and taken them to Olkalau. That is UHC. Olkalau has more beds.
We've said that the PPEs that have been hanging out at KEMSA now, give them out.
Distribute
them around the country.
Yes.
Coverage, countrywide
210
coverage.
new isolation facilities brought into operation between March and October 2015. That is universal health coverage. That is response to COVID-19. This is not what they had planned when they were talking about UHC in 2017.
So if COVID had not come, then these goalposts would not have been reached.
Yes.
Come on. What are we talking about?
This is absolutely no foundation. It's Mudomo, talk, higher. What's the other one? Manufacturing, right? So I just tell you about manufacturing, then we go to look at traffic. Not government response to COVID, where we let manufacturing. I'm reading this from State House Kenya Twitter handle, and this is what they've put. Very nice graphical representation of the highlights of the Big Four agenda from the State of the Nation Address 2020 by the President. Manufacturing pillar, number 1, Naivasha Special Economic Zone. Land has been acquired and master planning is complete. Foundation, number 2, Mombasa, Dongokundu Special Economic Zone, acquired but resettlement of project affected person still underway. Foundation, continued focus on ease of doing business index, review of import taxes, duties and levies to support local manufacturing. Is there any foundation that is here? In fact, in manufacturing, hata shamba hawajanunua. They're still trying to save so that they can go to the SACCO, so they can borrow, so then they can look for where they can buy land and talk to George Washiori of Optiven and ask him, George, man, ni wapi naweza nunua shamba sahi nijenge nyumba in 2075?
Yes.
Let's take a break. Let's look at traffic. We'll be back.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
So moving out of Nairobi, still that extended increased traffic then out towards Limuru. Westlands is an absolute mess today, headed out of the city, and it's moving very, very slowly, and it's also raining in some parts, so the roads are extremely slippery, guys. Mombasa Road also looking like it's going to be clogged up for most parts of the day. The traffic is going to be moving along steadily, but slower than usual, okay? Then getting into the CBD from Langata Road, from Gong Road, coming off of Valley Road. It's slower than usual, but it won't be too bad, okay? We're officially out of traffic hour, but there's some spots where it's going to continue for some time. Let us know what you see through the day. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text us on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
11 minutes to 10 o'clock. Show, Friday the 13th. The president's speech is what we're looking at. Big Four agenda. So the president is saying solemn vow that by 2022 they'll have laid a solid, unshakable foundation for the realization of the Vision 2030. You're still there, City, and that just reminds me of we're having a conversation with my brother about a couple of years back. The cabinet secretary in charge of infrastructure, housing, and all those things in that big ministry was on the Thika Superhighway, and he oversaw the beginning of this project where the road was going to be painted. It was actually being painted. What color was that paint? Pink.
No, I think it's red.
It's red.
Oh, wow.
Okay. It looks red to me. That line at the end of the road, on the right side.
That one.
Yes.
It's
all
red.
the way from Githurai overpass to fire station. And then in some parts is written BRT only, right?
Yes.
That was many years ago. And the whole idea was to launch the BRT process. And then we say that we're going to have the buses, they'll be operating as BRT, and they'll have a dedicated lane. You have done that. You have painted the road. Now the road has, in some areas, it has been recarpeted. So, of course, there's no more paint.
Paint is under. It's just under the
under the new layer of carpet.
They didn't erase it.
But we didn't have even a single bus.
Even one bus did not appear.
We began by painting the road, and then now we went into looking for buses.
As opposed to having the bus here and then saying, this is where it's going to operate from.
And my brother likened this to somebody who walks into a shop, let's say tiles and carpets, and buys this new, lovely, beautiful, expensive bathtub. Carries it home to his rented house in an apartment somewhere. Can't fit anywhere in the bathroom or in the living room, so he puts it on a balcony. I ask him, so what's a bathtub for?
It's a swimming pool.
One day, I will save enough money. I will buy a piece of land. And on that piece of land, I'll build a house. And in that house, I'm going to fit this bathtub.
Okay.
So he has bought the bathtub. For one day, he will build a house and where he's going to fit this bathtub. Keeps moving from this rented house to the next house with his bathtub.
On his back. Carrying his bathtub. Going.
One day.
He give it to somebody else to carry for him.
This is what happened with the Ministry of Transport.
Whether you're Kenyan by choice or choice by Kenyan, the truth is this. We never fail to find fault. There is the issue of discussing a matter and offering perspectives. Okay? Look, coup attempt 1982, stories, headlines, news items were replete with examples of individuals who had stolen fridges, looted, then went home. The fridge sat there. There's a small detail that had been neglected. It's called electricity.
More electricity on needle.
So what do you do with this fridge? Did you keep books in it?
And that's what I
also realized.
Became that.
We underestimate the strength of human beings. A picture was taken of a lady who looked, in my opinion, a little petite, carrying a fridge that was almost twice her size on her back. I said, either this fridge is lighter than I think, which I don't think was the case, or this person was really strong, or third option, where there's a will, there's a way.
You'll find a way through. But it can't be that there's so many people who are depending on you, and you can say, well, we're just going to kind of push through. And there are millions of people who are waiting for you, and this push through, this push through approach cannot work. When people are waiting for you, the next person who comes along could also say the same thing.
No.
That, okay, you know what? The foundation was built. Then I came and then I came. I came and then I put a layer. At least I've gotten it to 3 feet, isn't it? You won't live in it yet. But however, no matter what happens, the next person who comes along, this one is unshakable. We have built all-weather wall. There's no roof, there are no windows, there's nothing. The only thing left is the roof.
Look,
let the next person come and do
it. We can't present it as though roads haven't been built. We can't present it as though infrastructure that is supposed to help to provide an enabling environment for all the things we're talking about in terms of business expansion, food security to take place. That has been ongoing. Even now, we witness it ongoing.
Things have happened. Even people receiving title deeds. Those stuff
Yes,
happened.
and even when we talk about COVID, it isn't as though people haven't been treated. It isn't as though absolutely, completely, without fail, there have been a complete absence of PPEs. No.
Okay, sorry. Uh-huh.
Is it the PPE or is
It's
it
the PPE.
or
The
is it
absolute.
Look, I know I am sounding like I'm defending an indefensible position, but that's really not the case. The case, as I see it, I'm going back to what the president said, what the president is quoted to have said. And I think it was a good thing that he said, folks, this is the reality. Okay? That speechwriter needs to rethink certain things. However, the basic message was the truth of the matter for us as Kenyans is this. This is our reality here.
We will not achieve what we wanted to achieve.
Yes, this is our reality. This is our reality. And for a man to admit this when he's talking about his legacy, don't you think that fellow has actually gone out of his way?
The man has not admitted. The man is gaslighting.
What did he admit? What did he admit?
This man is telling us, you guys, you got me wrong.
I never told you I was going to finish.
Listen to what he said about what the Moses moment. Standing right there and looking at the River Jordan and looking at Canaan on their side and seeing these big giants and milk and honey. And he tells us, what I see is a Kenya where no one will ascend to a high public office on account of their tribe, a Kenya where no capable person will wallow in poverty because of poor governance, a Kenya where our potential as a people will be exploited for the greatness of our nation, a Kenya where we will all share equitably in the prosperity of our nation. The future is bright. The future is beckoning. The future is here for us to take. Indeed, a future where truly our justice will be our shield and defender.
And may love, peace, and unity reign.
I'm telling you.
Okay. No, that one is a political speech. We understand it. And it's supposed to inject a little hope. Now, why are you people not imbibing the hope?
The hope?
Yes.
You know, even without one of the reasons why we are still in this country is because we have hope.
If there was no hope, people would have jets.
Left,
people have found their way out.
To go where exactly?
We can cross over to another place. Where
Like
we
where
can look for
exactly?
hope.
Like where? Where there's
we
more
can go
hope
and
than we
look for
currently
hope.
have?
It's because you're sitting here, you're saying that because I do have some kind of hope in this country, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm
Where
still
would you go?
trying. Me?
Take your
Are you
pick.
asking me as
Take your pick, all of you.
now.
The two of you, two naysayers. Take your pick. Where would you go?
We're not going to answer you that. The thing is, we have hope. All right? We live in this country. We have hope. We don't need you to come and tell us about the hope.
And
it's okay. You can tell us. It's okay for a feel-good factor and all. But the reason is, the issue is, what is it that we need then to realize this dream?
Eric, when somebody...
Moses told them, all you guys need to do is you've walked this far. All you now need to do
Cross
is
over.
cross the river. Cross the river. Here is your new leader from the Lord Most High. Cross. What he had promised is on the other side. That's out. This president, what is he telling us?
You know, Moses...
Wake up tomorrow morning.
You know, Moses... It was the Red
Wacha
Sea
tupeane,
really that
wacha
parted,
tupeane
not
nini.
the River Jordan. Well, the River Jordan also parted, but
Wacha
that was for a different
tupeane,
matter.
wacha tupeane this thing called. So, we're asking about the name of this gentleman called Jasiri as a character in the show Pete on Maisha Magic. And we have a winner who gets the DSTV Go TV decoder, and this is Yvonne on IG. That's Yvonne on Instagram. Mutra Tamim, that's the name. And the question number one answer for winning a proper DSTV is Jacob Omondi from Ringa, Homa Bay. And one of the shows on DSTV is called, one of the new channels, the latest channels on DSTV is Zumu, which is a kids-oriented channel. Congratulations to the two. They have done very well. They win this one. They win. Jacob Omondi, Jacob, you win the DSTV decoder and dish. And then Yvonne, you win the Go TV decoder and dish.
Voila.
Congratulations to you.
I only have this to say to the two of you. And I'm going to quote today's proverb. If you close your eyes to the facts, You will learn through accidents. The two of you.
City.
Yes, Eric.
Open your eyes.
Open your eyes to the facts,
The
CT.
facts are right there for you to see. The fact is, Big Four agenda is moving nowhere. The fact is, this is what the president had told us he was going to have achieved at least by the end of his
second term.
And he's not achieving it. And he has said,
I never said I was going to.
He has said so.
What he should have said is why he has not been able to achieve. Not telling us, I didn't say I was going to. Hey.
Did I tell you I was going to finish the race?
I just said I'm going to start. A firm and unshakable foundation, which you can't define. What is unfirm? Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room today. Join us next week, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for more conversations in the week. Now until 3 o'clock, uninterrupted music. Then Emmanuel is sitting in for Monique on Spice Drive, 3 to 7. And then the two, Eric and Barbara, will be here as adults in the room from 7 to 10. And then you'll have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Open your eyes, or else, what?
Accidents will teach you.
Bas.